How are you, Mr. Brown?
I'm amazing. How are you doing?
On purpose?
On purpose.
We'll talk about that in a bit. I like that you always finish your videos with "Have an amazing day on purpose." I think that's pretty cool. So we'll get into that in a bit. Thank you for being here. I'm a fan. I've been watching your TikTok videos, and I see all that you do. And I was like, I got to have a conversation with this guy. I got to see how he does what he does.
Well, thank you. It's an honor.
Honors all mine.
This is actually my first podcast. Just
okay.
So you know.
All right.
I even started social media about 45 days ago. So
I noticed that, and it's going great for you. And so one of the things that I saw on your TikTok, and this was, I told Daniel before the show, this was the first thing I wanted to ask you. Cheers, by the way.
Cheers.
Cheers, Daniel.
Cheers, brother.
One of the first thing I wanted to ask you is, how does somebody who manages 12 companies and makes $180 million a year find time to go to Mexico during the week and have scorpion shots?
So I just want to set the record, because I've had a lot of people ask this. I do not make $180 million a year.
Okay.
We generate that amount of revenue. Our profit margins are strong. Like we make a lot of money, but not $180 million a year. That's the total revenue. Our profits, depending on the companies, range between 11% and close to 60% on some of the other businesses. So we do well, but not
fair.
That'd be cool.
Fair. Okay.
But how do I have time to manage everything? I don't have time to manage everything, and I don't manage everything. Everybody in business gets this idea that they need to manage things, and what you should really do is measure things. So I don't even believe in hiring managers. I hire measurers, because it's implied that you would manage shit if you're there, but it's not implied that you'd measure shit. Why would you have somebody going out and running something for you if they don't even measure what the fuck they're doing first? So I measure the people that I hire to measure all of the things that I want done. And depending on how they do, I go in and I coach them and I teach them and I educate them. All of my businesses, they say behind every good man is a great woman. Well, I have a bunch of great women behind me, and I believe in profit sharing. I mean, I bring in an employee, elevate them up, raise them up till I find out, you got to find that single most important ingredient, which is hunger.
Yes.
And once you've got that in a person, and you kind of let them go, and you see how much they can do, and you test them and you measure them, and then they eventually start running the company. I give them anywhere, depending on the business and how large it is when they take over, 10 to 20% of the net profits. So we have one business that should pay us north of $20 million this year. That employee should make $4 million in draws.
Woo.
And she was 3 years ago, making $17 an hour. So I think her life's changed just a little bit.
Just a little bit, I would imagine. Yeah.
And imagine how much she cares. Like this woman cares
course.
about every single thing going on, and she's amazing at measuring. And there's tons of different ways that you got to make sure that you've got the right person in there. I mean, I highly recommend doing a DISC test. If you're not familiar with DISC, it is huge. That DISC.
I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
It's a way of measuring personalities. Okay. And you want to put the right person in the role. I am a high D and a high I. D is like direct. Like I'll go in and, hey, this is how shit is. I'm not politically correct. I'm just fucking correct. I'm direct. Okay. My wife says sometimes I can be a D. So that's a good way to remember. Then there's I. There's influencers. My highest is D and I. Okay. And influencer is somebody that's going to sell it. Like they're going to sell it. They're not going to tell it. A D, if you're pure D, you're just telling them, hey, go do this, fucker. If you're I, you're going to sell them on why, but you're still going to want them to do it. And the influencer cares more about the people. The D, the direct, they care more about the result. Okay, so I'm D and I love the result, but I also love the person. So I've kind of got that blend. Then you have S's for steady, and these are people that they care about the people, but they want to get things done. They want to move things forward. They want a steady environment. They don't want too much change, too much this, too much that. Very important player. And then you have the C's, and the C's are incredibly analytical. I mean, conscientious is what the C stands for. And they're same example, same gal that's going to do very well this year. She's extreme C.
Okay.
She doesn't want to go in and make all of the hard decisions. She'll come to me for that. She wants me to do that. Like, you need all four in a good business.
Mm-hmm.
But because she's an extreme C, she'll sit and make sure that everything is done. She will measure. I hire measurers to go in and measure all the processes. I mean, if you think about a business, what is it? It's three pieces: getting business, doing business, getting paid, right? Those are the only three parts that make up any business ever. Well, If you have a C, they're going to really care about automating those three things. So if you hire well and then you incentivize well, I believe you create an environment that's so fucking good that people would never want to leave. And then you train them well enough that they could leave you. If you do those three things or those two things, they're never going to want to leave, but they could leave you, which means now you can replace yourself within your business.
That's a huge problem that I've run into in the workforce for years now, that I see constantly on LinkedIn. Both people who are looking for jobs are complaining that the employers are trying to pay them less than their worth, less than their experience. They want somebody with 10 years experience in sales, but they want to pay them entry level wages. And I think it does both the employer and the employee a disservice, because the employee goes in, starts working, maybe out of desperation because they've been out of a job for months now and they really need some income, but then they leave at the first chance that they get. And I've seen that happen. I've actually been in an interview one time where I had something like, I had very little experience. I was just starting out in the industry, and I go to this interview, and it got down to the final stage. Me and this other girl, they hired her because she had a lot of experience, even though it was an entry level position. I was working as a 1099 at the time. And so 2 weeks later, she quit. I'm like, well, of course she quit, because she found somebody who's going to pay her for her 8-9 years of experience. She's not going to work for what you guys are offering. But companies don't really see that, I think. Pretty big problem, which is why it's really cool to work for somebody who understands that, like, yeah, we're going to compensate you fairly. We're not going to keep every year just looking for ways to squeeze the reps a little bit harder to bring a little bit more revenue in and then save a little bit more on the compensation. I don't think that's a good idea.
So you're right, but let me, I guess, clarify some points, at least the way I see them. There's no person, there's no business, there's no anyone anywhere that works for anything other than a market. Okay. You might be an employee going to work for a company, but that company works for the market. So say you're wanting to go in and be a pharmaceutical rep, or you're wanting to go in and be a real estate agent. There's going to be a market somewhere between, this much money and this much money that you should get paid here. If you have a business that wants to pay you here below what the market rate is, they're going to fail from the beginning. Like it's you could predict that. You don't even need to. And so in this case that you're describing, you have a business that said, oh, wow, look, this girl has tons of experience. We're going to bring her in. You have common sense, or what should be called uncommon sense, right? And you're like, I got the job a week later because she left because somebody else was willing to pay her. Well, what kills businesses? What kills people? What kills everything? The shit you don't see coming. Okay. So what would you need? What would be critically fucking important? Optics. You need to find a way to get optics for, like, oh, you know what? I have this amazing person here. Like, say they wanted to hire her and they brought her in and they're like, hey, you know what? We want to bring you into this position because of your experience, but we're a business and we know that the market for your pay, just going to that example, that situation, is actually probably above this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to actually start you out at the lower pay, but we want you to know that we respect you. And we want you to come in, work for us. And in the next 30 days, we're going to reevaluate the position and raise you to a higher level of the market based on your experience. If you can deliver results at the experience level you have, we have such a good fucking culture. We have such great, respect for the people that work here. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and raise you up to where you should be. She probably wouldn't have left because she would have had hope for the future. Possibly. Instead of looking down and saying, fuck, these guys don't even respect me.
Right. Yeah. Oh, for sure. How long have you been on this entrepreneurial journey?
12 years and maybe 5 years successfully.
So you had a day job at one point?
Oh, no. I mean, have I had jobs? Yeah. Yeah. I job journey for me is kind of a fun one. When I was too young to work, I started selling driveway numbers. Like, I would walk up and down the streets and sell you on why you needed to have me paint your house number on the side of your driveway for 10 or 20 bucks.
With the football teams on there and logos and all that.
I didn't even do that. Mine were just black and white generally, but okay. I like to keep things real black and white, including your driveway number. But I would sell you on the idea that the builder who built your home puts the house number anywhere, and it's really hard for the EMS to see it in case of an emergency. And I don't ever want you to be in this emergency. So I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and paint your driveway. And then they'd tell me, well, I can't really afford it. I don't have $10. And I'd say, you know what? I'll do it anyway. 9 out of 10 houses would find a way to fucking pay you.
I feel like you really care.
More money.
I feel like you really care about the EMS finding me.
What do you mean?
You sold that really well.
Absolutely. You sell it, you don't tell it. If I tell you what I want, that doesn't matter for shit. But if I sell you, then all of a sudden I'm expressing what's in it for you. And if I show you that I care, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So I'd be like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway. They're like, well, why? I'm not paying you. I'm not hiring you. Well, that's okay. I mean, look, I care about you. If you're okay with having a uniform driveway number, I'm going to put it on there. If you have anything, great. If not, great. I mean, that's okay. Like, I respect you. I'd have people going to their fucking neighbor's house to borrow money and awesome. Selling their neighbor for me. And so at this point, like, I don't even know how old I was. I'm not good on the past, but I was probably 13 plus, but definitely not 16 yet. And I might have been younger. I might have been 11 at one point doing it. But either way, it doesn't matter. It's not really relevant. I would go out and I would sell 200 homes a weekend. You know, my dad had lost his job. He wasn't making any money. And if I'm selling 200 homes a weekend and I'm bringing in $10 200 times, I'm pulling in thousands of dollars when my parents on average are making $1,500 to $2,500 a month. And I'm bringing in $8,000 a month and I'm not even fucking 15 years old. And they're like, what the fuck's going on? Why is he doing this? Is he dealing drugs? No, I'm dealing driveway numbers. And of course I came from the typical middle-class family and they were like, hey, you need to get a job. You need to have this secure future. You need to
go to school.
Yeah. Go build somebody else's dream. Go bet your entire life that they're going to do the right thing by you. And I went and worked for Peter Piper Pizza. And the first fucking conversation I have is, well, look, minimum wage is $5.15, but you know, we're only going to pay you $4.75 an hour because we can do that for, I don't even know what it was, 30, 60, 90 days while we're measuring you. And I remember thinking, well, that's kind of a dick move, but whatever. Especially when I saw that all the pizzas were a minimum of $7, $8. And I was like, so wait, I'm going to generate thousands of pizza sales a day or participate in that. And wow, I realized what that meant. Like that hit me at a young age. I mean, I was 16 at that point, and I was like, fuck, I can make $8,000 a month working for myself as an 11 or 12 or 13-year-old. But then I go work for you and I'm relegated down to what, $200 a week if I'm your slave.
If that, yeah.
If I can get 40 hours a week in, $200 a week. Which one do you do? Fucking $8,000 in $2,000 in 2 days, $1,000 a day because you spent your weekends on it. You get 5 days off, or do you do fucking, you know, I'll slave for you for 40 hours so that you can pay me less than $200, and after taxes I get $150.
Yeah.
Do you know what bending over backwards represents? You're bending over backwards for somebody. Have you ever bent over for somebody? Make sure you don't do it in prison. You're probably about to get fucked. But you get fucked everywhere, not just in prison. If you're bending over for somebody, if you're bending over backwards, now you're just doing it and you're uncomfortable. That's a fucking job. It stands for just over broke. Fuck that. So for me, jobs, I had some jobs, but you know, I was very good at getting out of jobs.
That's hilarious. I worked at Peter Piper when I was 16 too. It was the worst job I've ever had. That was rough. So you've basically been an entrepreneur your whole life. Like you've had this mindset of like, I can go out there and I can produce things. I don't need somebody to tell me, here's what you got to do. And this is how I'll pay you. I'll create income on my own. You've been doing that since you were 13 years old.
You know, I had I guess the benefit when I was really young, I had a lot of friends who were Jewish and their parents were either entrepreneurs, whether successful or not, or they were lawyers or, you know, people like this who just, they believed in there's a way to get what you want, but before you can do that, you need to know what you fucking want. And I listened to them talk and it sounded so different than the way that my parents spoke. My parents had a very different relationship to money. And then I would go and I would hang out with my friends' parents and I would see the differences in what they had. Like, you know, my friends live on the mountain, this beautiful home. We live in a trailer park in fucking Canutillo, Texas. And, you know, at this point we had this, I remember my mother got us a country club membership at Tennis West Country Club, not because we could afford a country club, but because that was the only place we could afford to go take a shower. Like we weren't on city water at that point, and there was this guy named Erlab that sold water to this little community. I think it's still there. I don't know if it's city yet or he's been taken away, but he was completely usurious. And so we lived in a trailer that cost us fucking $200 or $300 a month and was a complete shithole. And then the water bill was $300 or $400 a month. And we couldn't afford it. So my mom was able to get a membership to the country club and we'd go there 3 times a week and shower, which was actually cool because we could use the fucking swimming pool too. and I correlated early that my mother and father's relationship to money, although they were the hardest working people on the planet, was not the same as the relationship to money that all of my friends' parents had. It was a very different identity that they had. And you don't get what you want, you get what you are. And when you have an identity I mean, this is way later in the journey, but I started, I'm a nerd. If you can't tell by the tiny shoulders and the giant head, and I look like I should be on Bobby's World. I'm a fucking nerd. And I looked at it and I was like, holy shit. So there's an identity that we all have, and we all have it in 4 areas. I mean, faith, family, fitness, finance. These are the 4 cores of the human experience. And progress equals happiness in all 4 of these cores. And they're not the same.
Yes.
I mean, fitness is not faith and family is not finance, and they're nothing really alike. Like family and money are completely different. Money is all conditional, right? Family is all unconditional. I mean, especially if you're talking love. But watch this. Let's say faith, family, fitness, finance, not the same, but tethered to one another. If you have stage 4 cancer, are you advancing massively in your love connection with the universe, or are you fucking terrified because you're about to lose everything? No. So while they're not the same and progress equals happiness, you cripple one and you limit all 4. You remove progress. If we're not growing, we're dying. And so I started realizing, oh fuck, their relationship to money. What's the relationship to health? What's the relationship to and that was much more of a 20, 30 year journey. I was not like, I didn't as a fucking 12-year-old think that shit, but
Right.
it was at least a beginning to where I was beginning to realize, oh shoot, your identity in each of these areas is going to affect your results. And your results is, you're not just a human being, you're a human becoming. Coming is a verb. If I'm coming to your house to visit you, if I'm coming to do this podcast with you, I've got to do a verb. I've got to fucking take action. I've got to show up. I mean, I'm on my way somewhere. And so it's not just who are you, it's who are you becoming? What's your identity? Is your identity limited? Is your identity locked? Are you stuck somewhere? You look at last year, look at 2020, how many people were stuck? How many people spent their year hating people, judging people because one guy had, a fucking orange haircut, or this group had this color skin and this group had this color skin. And so we all must, judge each other and like go after each other and be negative on one another. I mean, that's a limited identity that people have, which creates all sorts of fucking problems. And where are they? Faith, family, fitness, finance.
Unhappiness,
limited in one of them.
Yeah. A lot of unhappiness, a lot of disappointment, and constantly feeling resentful and hateful of others, especially hating on people who have more than you. I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you had Jewish friends when you were growing up, and the conversations with their parents were different than the conversations with yours. Because I watched this video recently, and I don't know to what extent this is true or not, but the video was talking about why Jewish people have money. And one of the main reasons for that is financial education. It's passed down from generation to generation. There's a lot of entrepreneurship. There's a lot of explaining to your kids how money works and why you need it and how to make more and everything that goes along with it that is absent in most families. And I think that because most people don't have money, they never really embark on that entrepreneurial route and figure out how to create it out of nothing. They just have this idea of, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get a job, and then this kind of job will pay me that much, and that kind of job will pay me that much. And that's what they preach on to their kids because they can see the path. It's obvious. Like if you can, when you're 10 years old, you can look at, okay, I'm going to go to college for X amount of years. This is how much debt I'm going to accumulate. Hopefully they actually factor that into their education, because then they'll look at return on investment other than just going and getting a worthless degree that cost them $60,000 and they can't make any money afterwards. And then they look at the return on investment. They go, okay, then I'll work in this job. Entry level is going to pay me that much. And by the time I'm this old, I'll be out of debt. And then I'll start saving this much money here. And it's all addition and subtraction. The problem with that is that it's all pluses and minuses, which I think is how poor people think. Rich people think in multiplication. They think, I've heard you talk about this on your TikTok, and it's true for everybody. Is your pen not working? There you go. How can I establish multiple revenue streams? How can I multiply? Rich people multiply, poor people add and subtract. That's at least what I've seen in my experience.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, wealth is a mindset, and wealth is not a mindset just about money. I mean, you go look at your relationship to fitness versus mine. Just by the size of your shoulders compared to mine, you have a wealthier mindset when it comes to fitness than I do. Okay. Like when you look at money,
what do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean?
Study the good book. Like you said, you were a personal trainer at one point, right? Okay. So were you in the gym all the time?
I was.
Okay. You have a wealthier mindset than I did. And then I do about fitness.
Okay.
I have a good mindset on health. I have a good mindset on energy. I have a good mindset on those things. But when it comes to going to the gym, I'm unmotivated. I'm uninspired by that. So your mindset towards that is wealthy.
What this means is I can hire you as a client. I'll train you.
I love it. So here is the wealth mindset. And it's in all cores. Okay. It's in every single area. I mean, there's wealth mindsets around money. There's wealth mindsets around love and abundance.
Not
and
hire you, but you hire me as a trainer.
Hey.
I said that backwards. Go for it.
Hey, it's just good. It's just good forecasting, bro. It's good foreshadowing for your future. You never know. So wealth mindsets are about creation. Poverty mindsets are about earning. Think about it. How do you make a baby? You earn a baby? You got to work towards a baby? No.
Kinda.
You have a passionate, loving experience and you make a baby. How do you really create money? Do you earn it or do you fucking make it? Think about the wording. Words are powerful. When you make money, you've literally created money. Say, I'll use flipping homes as an example because it's something so popular right now. But if you go buy a house that fixed up is worth $200,000, you get it for say 120, and you put 20,000 into it and you repair it, it's 140,000 that you're in the deal. You turn around and sell it. You paid the realtors and everybody else 20 grand. Holy shit. Didn't you just create $40,000 of wealth that didn't exist before? Right. You made money. How do you create a baby? Did you fucking do that? Did you know that there's actually a heartbeat before there's a heart? If you go study it, if you look it up, there's an energy signature before there's a single cell there.
Electric impulses?
There's electric impulses before there's a single cell there. Huh. And that only happens when somebody has made love. And so when you make love, then you create energy, you make life. You make a baby. You've never fucking earned one. Nobody can. Okay. I have 2 kids. Trust me. I fucking made it. All right. And you make money the exact same way. You create it. Everybody in life is a creator. We all create in different ways. But if you're looking at life as I'm not going to create, I'm going to earn, then you have a poverty mindset. And anytime you have a poverty mindset, you have absolutely limited what you can do or grow to or build or create or anything else. Because, you know, the good book says with the faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. The faith of a mustard seed, like that's a creator mindset. That's not an earner mindset. Does that make sense?
It does.
And so you're absolutely right that wealthy people multiply, but they multiply in many ways. It was funny. I had the honor of taking several of my CEOs and high level employees with me on this trip that we just did in Costa Rica with YBL. And, you know, most of the clients of YBL, they're people that are, you know, making millions or hundreds of millions, in some cases, billions of dollars. I mean, these are some of the top, most successful people on the planet, people that are revolutionizing the world. Okay.
Don't lose that thought, but just real quick, tell people what YBL is.
YBL is a travel and events and coaching company. I was doing coaching for the last few years, and, you know, my wife told me to stop buying businesses, stop building businesses. And, you know, luckily she approved of this one, but I, you know, to meet my need, because business is one of my muscles that I'm good with, I decided to coach other companies and help other people grow, like add value to other businesses and help them grow and scale. It's something that comes relatively easily to me. And, so I was doing that, and I was massively underpaid, but I was really enjoying what I was doing. So I honored my commitments. And when my last commitment ended, I got with a few other guys that were doing similar things. And I said, you know, let's do group coaching. We can actually get paid a little bit of what we're worth. And then nobody else in the world is traveling. And we could do like travel. We could bring in amazing speakers. We could do events, and we could coach, and we'll coach some of the top people on earth. And, you know, I was already coaching some of the top people on earth, but rather than charging, you know, too little to somebody, like I have friends that coach top CEOs and people like that, and they're making, you know, thousands of dollars an hour. I mean, they're charging 15 to 30 grand a month for that type of service. I was charging 3 because I didn't even value myself. I was doing it more to benefit my time than I was to make it worth my time. But I like the idea of not making it ridiculously expensive. So I was like, well, if we just put 100 people together, they all pay 2 grand a month. Well, that's a very reasonable approach. And then we can do travel, we can do events, we can do this, that, and the other. And, you know, that pays for my travel all over the world. I have fun with it. We have this beautiful peer group. You're skiing together, you're snowboarding together, you know, we all rode a fucking banana boat, and I had to go see my chiropractor afterwards. I don't know if you've done that, but it was fucking incredible. This last week we had Allison Armstrong, who was probably one of the top relationship experts and specialists on earth. And she came out and taught us for 3 days, and we went and we would play. And we were at the Four Seasons in Costa Rica on the Papagayo Peninsula for 6 days. I mean, we had 4 days of event, and I stayed a couple extra days. just to go out and enjoy. And we all hung out and just explored our relationships with one another, and grew massively as a group. But also, some people are helping you in your relationship. Some, like, say, for example, Dean and I, my mentor and I, who's part of this group. Fortunately, I get to be in business with my mentor now. He and I are coaching people on business and money. Like, my buddy Mateen's like showing me how to work out on this little thing that he had. Why? Because I apparently fucking need it when you look at my shoulders. But so we're all giving to each other, serving each other, and that's what YBL is. So we created that. And kind of going back to the initial thought, what was really interesting is I have all these top level employees that work for me, and they come out and they're meeting people who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars or more, and they're finding out that they're just like them. They're finding out that there's zero difference other than they've built a muscle around money.
Yeah.
Massively generous, massively loving. I mean, they have similar pains. Guess what? They have pains in family. They have pains in fitness. They have pains in finance. They have pains in faith, just like everybody else. But they just have different strengths. I mean, so they've made some money. So we all demonize people who make money. As a society, you have an entire political party that likes to hate the rich. And that just fucking blows my mind. Because like, why would we hate the people we should be learning from?
Right.
Shouldn't success be something to strive for?
That's what we've been telling people in America for decades, except now it's kind of backwards. So for some reason we're not striving for success anymore.
Imagine if we did that differently. Imagine if instead of hating people that we didn't understand, because that's what it is. It all roots in tribalism. Every ism, whether it's racism, feminism, sexism, you name it, it all roots in tribalism. You're not like me and I'm not like you, therefore we should hate each other, therefore you're evil and I'm not evil, so I must kill you because I'm not evil. So that's fucking hypocrisy at its best, right? But when you study that, why do we hate rich people as a society? Why do we want to go and like tax them out of existence, take everything away from them, completely destroy their lives, make their children penniless so we can take money away from them and give it to all the people that haven't fucking gone out and taken the risks?
Right.
Well, we hate them because we don't understand them. And I get that because I came from nothing. I was broke. But I luckily I had the benefit of mentors and teachers and leaders that showed me that don't hate them, learn from them.
Oh, sure.
Imagine instead of hating wealthy people, if we hated people that were really physically fit. If we said, oh my God, those
there's that movement
people,
too. I mean, there's that movement too. Yeah. Fit shaming. That's a real thing.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Jesus.
That's a real movement. Yeah.
So you go out and earn something and you're the devil because you make your abs look good?
Yeah, because you're making the guy wearing a t-shirt at the beach feel bad about his body. And you should be encouraging that person, even though they're destroying their health.
Why would we encourage ignorance or stupidity?
That's a great question. Solve that one. You could become president. Maybe you could become president and then solve it.
Let me tell you what. I would never run for public office.
Yeah.
You know what I know about politicians? They're commodities. They're for rent and they're for sale. And I will never be for rent or for sale.
I think it was Mark Twain who said that politicians and diapers need to be changed frequently and for the same reason.
Yep. Poly means multiple. Ticks means blood-sucking arachnids. Don't join that community.
Well, like it or not, you're involved in it. It's part of your life. You're dealing with politics. You're talking about money right now, about people hating the rich. Yeah. Why don't we learn from them? Why don't we take I call it the Jewish approach and actually educate people on financial matters and raise a population of kids who don't get their first credit card and max it out and spend the next, I don't know how many years paying 25% interest on the stupid concert that they went to, or, whatever the hell they bought, whatever worthless crap they bought because it was on sale.
I think the person that does have an answer to that question is going to become wildly successful. I don't have an answer to that question, but my hallucination would be that we know that if we educated everyone, who would be there to serve? So unfortunately, some of the more toxic personality elites, and whether it's wealthy people or politicians or whatever, want you to go get a job, want you to live in servitude. I mean, think about it.
Of course. I mean, who's going to wash their cars and press their shirts?
Modern day slavery, brother. Modern day slavery has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It's all economic.
Mm-hmm.
What was slavery? If we actually study it from an economic perspective and we remove the racism, because there was a lot of racism. Like, we can't say there wasn't if you're taking a person with a certain color of skin and making them work. But if we remove the racism, we just look at the economics. We're going to take a human being that we can somehow control. We're going to take them and we're going to put them in bare necessity living conditions. We're going to give them limited to no means of transportation.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to pay them as little or nothing as possible. And we're going to make them do all of our work for us.
Yep.
What's the fucking difference between that then and minimum wage now?
Sounds like Peter Piper.
Right? So you go and fucking look at that. What's the difference? Like I've had employees. In fact, Daniel, I'm going to use you as an example. I've got my social media guy here, and I guess he's taking pictures of me while I do this. He walks into my office to get a job, overqualified for the job. And he comes in and says, what did you say to me? You're like, I'd really like to make, I don't even remember what the fuck it was, but it was like $9 an hour or $11 an hour. Huh? Yeah. And so he asks me for an hourly wage. And I literally shut him the fuck up. I was like, no, my offer is X. And it was magnitudes higher. Like magnitudes higher. Here's what I'll pay you. Here's the value I'm expecting you to deliver. If you deliver that value, you can count on continuing to be paid that amount of money. We can actually go up from there. Like he was trained into a slavery mindset without even realizing it. And I think I shocked the shit out of him but here's one of the things.
Isn't that competition though? Doesn't competition result in lower prices, lower wages because there's somebody willing to do the job for less? So people end up asking for less.
No.
Isn't that what the free market produces though? It produces competitive wages and like that's okay.
That's a myth. That's a myth. So that's the sales pitch that people use. Let me tell you what competition is. Well, let me try to answer this question in long form, not short form, because it deserves a quality answer and not just a quick answer.
We got time.
People will take the quick answer to competition creates poverty, and they'll say, well,
it doesn't create poverty. It creates competition. It
creates lowering prices, right?
Correct. Like if you look at laser eye surgery when it started versus how much it costed then versus how much it costed now, because all these doctors are doing it, and you can go get your vision fixed at this place and you could go do it at that place for $2,000 less. It costs like a fraction of what it did in the beginning, and that's the result of a competitive market.
So that's that. I mean, yes. Okay. So when you're an early actor, and in that situation, yes, if you're an early actor, if you're the first auto manufacturer, nobody else has ever fucking done it, and you had to pay for all the research and development, then you're going to be able to charge more than people will when everybody's an auto manufacturer. If you're the first person doing laser eye surgery and you have an unlimited amount of customers and you can't service them all, you can charge whatever you want. When you have competitors that are competing for that, then all of a sudden you have to come within the market. That's market.
And we're seeing that in the housing market right now.
Oh, for sure. The housing market's booming.
I want to talk to you about that, but I want to hear your explanation first.
So let's look at competition two ways instead of one way. Look, if I look at this phone right now and you look at this phone, what are you seeing? What are you seeing right now as you're looking at my phone?
A very powerful and costly device.
A very powerful and costly device. Now, let's ask a question. Are you seeing the same thing that I'm seeing?
Negative.
Why? It's still a phone. I've got a funny picture, and I'm looking at my son when he was born, and that, I don't even remember the comedian who used a stupid fucking puppet, but don't they kind of look alike? So both of us are looking at what we think is the same thing, but we're not seeing all sides of the same thing.
Right.
If you don't see the full story. So let's say I want somebody like Daniel, no different than your first analogy with the girl that got the job and had more experience. I want Daniel to work for me, and I'd kind of like him to stay with me. If he does a great job and my social media brand blows up 2 or 3 times larger, what could he charge for those skills? Could he up his pay? Could he then create competition for employers that would be willing to seek him out and pay him more?
Definitely.
Competition's both sides of the equation. It's all who's selling it better. So, when I'm going out, like the goal is to reduce competition. The goal is to separate yourself from the pack, right? How many people out there do social media marketing like Daniel did? Fucking everyone.
Everybody.
Like everybody and their brother does social media marketing. He came in, had a good resume. I said, I'm going to pay you more. What does that also mean? That means I'm going to compel you not to leave. And we're going to go do enough together to where you're going to be able to leave and go find a replacement for me. What does that mean? Somebody that'll pay you more than me.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? You can go build your own social media brand. You don't even have to build mine anymore. I'm going to pay you enough to go do your own thing or go get a job from somebody that'll pay you more than I pay you. All I ask is that you give me the opportunity, if that happens, to at least match or beat it.
Mm.
What's the culture I'm starting out with?
Trust.
What's the first 4 letters in the word culture?
Cult.
How do you build a cult? Care about people. Nobody fucking cares how much you know
Or
until they know
brainwash
how
them.
much you care. Right. But how do you brainwash them?
Touche.
So he was trained into that idea and that identity that the free market creates competition. It creates price lowering. Well, not necessarily, because the market is many factors. I mean, if we look at this body and we say, oh, you know, it's 2 arms, 2 legs, and you got like, you know, your head and your whatever. So basically there's what, like 5, 6 limbs, depending on what you want to look at. And that's the way we describe the body. Did we miss all of the internal organs?
Mm-hmm.
Did we miss the brain? Did we miss the eyes? Did we miss the sensory organs? Did we miss like all of the amazing things it can do? Like when can you stop describing something? You know, people like to put a conclusion on things, and they like to say, oh, well, the market creates this. In a sense, it does. You're not wrong, but you're not looking at the other side of the story.
Right.
Because the market also creates great opportunity for him. So the problem is a mindset problem. The problem is people go out and say, oh, well, you know, the market's rough, so I can't get a good job. Let me tell you one thing. The unemployment rate doesn't ever change for people that make over $100,000 a year. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Never changes. Why? Because people that are good at their fucking jobs, that deliver massive, massive, massive value, that are completely engaged, that care about the organization that they're working with, or care about the business of their own, will care later also. Now, not saying some don't fall off, but as those fall off,
Sure.
others come on, and the rate doesn't change. The unemployment rate doesn't change.
Sure.
Go back 100 years.
That's
Find
so
me.
crazy.
Find me that.
I didn't know that.
Now, who became unemployed in this recent economic crash? Waiters and hotel workers, right? Low-income workers.
And some of them didn't want to go back to work because they were making more on unemployment, but that's a different topic.
No, I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean,
Right.
it's kind of the same topic. You know, are employees engaged?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we think that we're going out and getting technology to replace people? Technology cannot do shit compared to me. I can outdo technology every fucking day of the week. So
Whoa.
can you, so can he. Now, that being said, I mean, look, you know what? If you think technology can outdo people, then why the fuck do women still marry men? Vibrators exist. Think about it. So you got to look at this shit, man. I mean, if I'm engaged, Gallup came out with a poll fairly recently, and they showed that 85% of employees globally were disengaged. Globally. That's 7 billion fucking people. We don't even realize how big that is because our brains don't work those numbers. 7 billion people. 1 million seconds ago. What, 11 and a half, 12 days ago? 1 billion seconds ago. I think that's 33 or 36 years ago. You know what 1 trillion seconds ago is? 33, 36,000 years ago.
Damn.
We don't think in fucking numbers this big. 7 billion people in the world, 85% of the employees globally are disengaged.
I believe it.
And you wonder why those who do a great fucking job at what they do and are passionate about what they do and are creating in the way they do it, not earning, the unemployment rate doesn't change. Strange. Yet you go look at all the people that are miserable where they're at. They're probably miserable everywhere else in life too. They have the ups and downs. In life, there's people, and unfortunately, there's sheeple. The people are the ones that are motivated by pleasure and pain. The sheeple are the ones that are motivated only by pain, and they will judge, they will justify, they will condemn, they will criticize, but they will never look in a fucking mirror and find out where they can become better.
What motivates you?
I
hate those types of questions. Let me give you a quote.
lot of stuff.
Let me give you a quote that has to do with motivation. It says, "Unhappiness motivates whimpering. Action is motivated by fear." What do you think about that?
I think it's again half true.
Like for me, I'm terrified of living my life broke, just barely getting by, always worried about bills. I've been there, hated it. Don't want to go back. I want to get as far away from it as possible.
You know, going to the first question, what motivates me? Finding out what's possible. And last week I leased a jet, and I got to watch my 2-year-old and 4-year-old climbing onto this private jet to fly to Costa Rica. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, because I mean, I hadn't thought this way yet, because I grew up fucking broke, and like that's part of my story. That's part of my journey. And I realized very quickly, I was like, oh, fuck, this is not part of my children's journey.
Right.
I cannot raise my kids the way my parents raised me. They're in a dynamically different environment than I was in.
Right.
I don't want them to be Lucky Sperm Club douchebags like a lot of people that I've met.
Sperm Club douchebags.
I need to go make sure that I raise my kids differently. And don't get me wrong, I'm massively grateful that I have the ability to do this and the ability to give that to my family. But I'm also like, holy fuck, my environment has changed, which means their environment's different than my environment, which means I need to grow and be something at a different level than my parents were, or else I'm going to create a different problem. And that problem will be something that so many people fail with. I mean, how many people say that rich people's kids are horrible? Almost everybody I know says, oh, Lucky Sperm Club, rich people's kids are so entitled, da-da-da-da-da.
It's a common thing, yeah.
It's a common thing. But I know people who are very wealthy who have raised amazing kids.
Sure.
And so it
can happen.
triggered me immediately. And I said, what are they doing? And I literally went out and I started asking questions of a buddy of mine who I know, and I don't want to mention other people's names because I don't want to get them. If this is the video that goes fucking viral, I don't want to have people like approaching people for things that they're not asking for. But one man raised his son. They're a lending family, you know, very wealthy man. Son is definitely Lucky Sperm Club, and he's an amazing guy. Like, he's hardworking, he's passionate, he's loving, he's kind, he's just a good fucking person. Another man who's a business partner of mine, I had the privilege of actually meeting his kids in Costa Rica, and these kids are obviously massively wealthy, but they're incredible young gentlemen. I mean, the type that will go out of their way to get the door for somebody, go out of their way to help somebody, go out of their way to be givers and servers, and so kind of seeing this. I mean, I've always wondered, how do I make sure my kids are great, but how do you go find more? What motivates you? What is more? Where do I find it? You know, when I really started making significant money, because that was my goal for, I'd say, 9 of the last 12 years. And then 5-6 years ago, I started doing much better, and I could see the trends were in my favor. And then 3 or 4 years ago, I was free. I mean, I was done. I don't have a money problem anymore. I have a money solution now. But my goal for the first several years was, how do I get here? And you got to go look at Success Leaves Clues and find out what the best people in the world are doing. Now I'm looking at that same thing, but with my kids. No longer is it money. Now it's, how do I get here from a parenting standpoint? How do I get here from a fitness standpoint? How do I get here from this? I mean, what motivates everyone? I think it's becoming more or not becoming less. It's always the same two things. It's always pain and pleasure, no matter how you phrase it. You know, if you're always worried about how do I protect what I have, you're probably never going to focus on how you find what you want, because you're stuck in protection mode. You know, my goal is to live in faith, not in fear. My goal is to give away more money than I keep. Like, I would love to make so much money that I could give away 90% of it, keep 10% of it, and still have all of my goals and dreams.
That'd be great.
I mean, you go out and you see the way, it was really beautiful. We had these kids come play us a concert in Costa Rica, and their parents were there. And I mean, most people there speak Spanish and English. And when I was watching the moms that were sitting there with their kids who had just played us a concert, as I'm on stage and raising money from all these beautiful people to help their children, to help children like their children. And when they saw $10,000, their eyes lit up. By the time it was over 200,000, they were sitting down because they had no idea how to even fathom this.
Right.
This was something that wasn't within their reality. They were witnessing to them what was a miracle. And it was so fucking beautiful. And when you can give that to people, shit, what motivates you?
Money. Fear. I mean, I touched on this a little bit ago. I've been broke and I hated it. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life that way. What really drives me crazy, I've talked about this a couple of times on the podcast, is not being able to afford something. It fucks me up. I hate it. I hate walking into a store, there's something in there that I can't afford. I'm like, I got to find a way.
What can't you afford?
Oh, a lot of things. The Jacobs Astronomia, for example.
What's that?
That's $1 million watch.
Okay.
It's a gorgeous watch. Can't afford it. Not yet.
Okay.
And here's the thing. Once I get to a point where I can buy it, I may not buy it, but I want to have the option. What bothers me is not having the ability.
How old are you? Do you mind if I ask?
28.
Oh, that's fucking awesome. You're 28 and you're worried about not being able to afford $1 million watch.
Damn right.
I mean, so right off the bat, like, compliments to you, because that's a beautiful mindset. But people get outside of life stages, and I'm not judging because I've fucking been there. And I always looked at people, and I would see my friends in their 50s and their 60s and their 70s. And I've got a buddy, and, you know, this is 3-4 years ago. He had bought this fancy Aventador, and I think it's a fucking Lamborghini, but it could be a Ferrari. I'm not that keen on which ones are which, but it's an Aventador. It looks like the fucking Batmobile. It's black. It's sexy as shit, right? And I remember thinking, I can't afford that. I'll never have one of those because I can't afford that. And literally I had to rip the thought out of my head, because I had to realize, man, I'm in a different life stage than him. I was in my early 30s at the time, and he was in his early 40s at the time. He had a good 10 fucking years on me. And then it hit me. I was like, wait a minute. And I started asking him questions. I was like, when did you hit success? And he was like, define success. Wealthy people are always asking for definitions. They always want to know what it means.
I love definitions. Voltaire said, if you wish to converse with me, define your terms.
Absolutely. And he said, what does that mean? And I said, when did you not have to worry about money? And he says, I still worry about money. And I said, when did you have enough money to get whatever you wanted? He was like, I don't have that yet. And I was like, well, you just bought a fucking Lamborghini. He was like, yeah, but I want to change the whole world. I was like, oh. When did you get enough money to get the fucking Lamborghini? Did you finance? Did you buy it cash? He was like, no, I bought it cash. I could buy 20 of those. And I was like, oh, okay. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm asking the wrong questions because it was the wrong stage. Right now, you're not at a situation where you should be looking at, I can't afford that yet, and it pisses you off. What if you looked at, how can I afford that in 5-10 years?
That's exactly what I'm looking at.
And when you do that, and that's beautiful. See, that's why you're on the right journey.
By the time I'm 35 is the goal.
Beautiful. And when you look at that, you have to say, okay, how do I get whatever I want? Well, let me give you an example. It's an analogy. How do you get any customer that you want anywhere in any business, anywhere in the world? You find out what they want. You go get it, and you give it to them.
Yeah.
Find out what they want, go get it, give it to them.
Right.
So are you a customer that you should be servicing? Probably the first one. There's no more important customer to us than us. Find out what you want, what you really want, and then build a staircase, but start at the top. You know, I want this watch. And there's probably more than the watch. I mean, there's probably the watch and several other things involved.
If we were to look at the big picture and use another word than an object, if we were to describe it with a word, it would be capability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there's this top of the staircase here, but then you build backwards. And,
correct.
And when you're looking at the items, you then start looking at the journey and say, am I willing to pay that price to get that? Because if you build this thing called a map, and I'll show you something and nobody else can fucking see it because it's on a phone, but I'll show you an Excel sheet. And this is funny because every time I do anything with any business, I make sure that the first thing I have is a map. And the reason I want a map, and I'm typing strategic driver into my phone, and you can see that there's emails, tons of emails, and all of them with an attachment, right? Every single day, every single company, they must send me a strategic driver analysis. It's just a fucking map. It's a map that tells me about the business. And then that map doesn't only tell me what I want, it tells me something more important. You are here. And then it guides every fucking step of the journey. Now, if you look at this map here, brother, you can see right there at the top, this is about a 40 or 50 tab Excel sheet.
Right.
And every single fucking page talks to each other. I can scroll over here and I can literally grab this page, and let's see, we'll grab that one there, and I'll scroll down. Notice this little section. Where is it? Shit, it's always harder when I'm not fucking paying. Profit loss. Do you see that? Profit loss?
Yep.
And if I scroll down through all the fucking homes I'm building, this is about 6 months worth of inventory. there should be at the bottom, that second white number, the gross profits of that company, which costs about $3 million a year to run in the next 6 to 8 months.
That's amazing.
Now, this map,
that's a lot of commas.
You want more commas. Stop counting digits, start counting commas. It'll make your life a lot easier.
That's right.
Less shit to count. And this map doesn't tell me just where I'm going. It tells me I am here. It tells me the next step.
Mm-hmm.
It shows me the problem. You know what the flower is staring at for the first month of its life? Shit.
Yeah.
It's literally buried in a pile of shit. We call it fertilizer. It's a seed that wants to grow. It starts emerging and eking its way to the fucking surface. All it wants is light. All it wants is the fucking light at the end of the tunnel, but it has to create the tunnel. Think about that.
Right.
Everybody's looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, yet they're unwilling to create the tunnel. What's the tunnel look like? What's the map look like? Where are you going? Everybody's biggest problem, and not yours. You're fucking way ahead of most just based on the way you're talking. But most people's biggest problem is they think they shouldn't have any fucking problems.
Yeah, that they have a misconception or a misunderstanding of what happiness actually is. They think that if you're happy, you're never at a low. You never hit any lows, and that's just impossible. And happiness is a state. It's a permanent state. And even when you have challenges and problems, you're still pretty happy. Like some people think that if you're happy, it means that you're always smiling. I had this conversation with somebody one time. They go, they didn't want to go to the gym. And they're like, well, people at the gym, are never happy because you look around, you don't see anybody smiling. And I said, well, you never see anybody smiling when they're fucking either. It doesn't mean they're not enjoying it.
Fuck yeah. And amen to that. Oh shit, I had a point and you totally stole my That was fantastic. That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
Happy doesn't necessarily, I might steal that
Go for it.
use that one of these days. That's a good way to make a comparison.
Doesn't mean that you're always smiling. You got problems. Everybody's got problems. But I always say, so talking about money and happiness, people always ask the question, does money buy happiness?
Sure.
And different people have different takes on that. But I really think that people are asking the wrong question. The question is not whether or not money buys happiness. The question is, does money reduce stress? And the answer is, in my experience, undoubtedly yes. I don't think that's disputable. When you have enough money to cover all of your life needs, all of the things that you need to, all of your basics, house, food, health insurance, all this stuff. Now happiness becomes a choice. Now if you're still miserable, then you've got to figure out why. Is it your relationships? Do you hate your job? Can you not figure out how to make friends? Like what's going on? Those other parts of life that you've been talking about.
So let me add to that point because I agree with everything you said, but one.
Okay.
You said now you have to start seeing, now as if like once you've had success, you have to start seeing if that's really what made you happy.
Now you can choose.
Now it's a choice.
I think, yes, in my experience, it's really hard to be happy when you're constantly worried about your fucking rent and your water bill. And oh shit, I just got a flat tire. A flat tire can ruin your whole day because you're working for $6 an hour and that tire costs $150 to replace.
So
that ruins your whole day.
Happy with that?
For me, it was difficult.
Can I give you a little piece of advice and truth?
Please.
Everybody thinks that when they're successful, they're going to be able to, from there, be happy, grow happiness. But it was the journey that got you to that success. And most people never actually make it through the journey because most people are trying to hustle their way there. You cannot hustle your way to success. You never will. You will wear out, you will burn out, you will fry, you will die before you ever fucking get there. And 99% of people do. That's why they call the top 1% the top 1%. They're the only ones that made it. Now, when you get close to these people that did make it, you find out they were all happy to a man before they got there. Happiness is the soil that success grows in. You cannot pour from an empty cup. It is impossible to pour from an empty cup. Here's something interesting about problems and all the pain and all the bullshit. And I agree with where you're coming from because I lived that for many years. Then I got happy and it was weird because my fucking business took off. But it was weird because I could grow, I could give more once I had happiness despite the pain. Once I lost everything, I literally lost everything. Okay. My wife's childhood best friend stole $250,000 from my company. We didn't have $250,000. They robbed my property management company.
Damn.
Stole it from my fucking customers. Once I lost everything, once I realized, well, I'm already a failure. Then I was able to look around and be like, well, fuck, what's the risk? It's not going to kill me. Okay. Just like building muscles at the gym is lifting weights, dealing with that $6 an hour and that $150 tire is lifting weights.
Been there.
You're pushing past thresholds.
Yes.
Once you've pushed past the threshold, you can now deal with more.
Correct.
You can only carry whatever the threshold has gotten you to. You cannot carry more than that. Once this happened to me, I realized, wait, I've lost everything and I'm still breathing. And you can't fucking take everything from me unless you kill me. And at that point, I literally, this is several years. This is more than 5 years ago. It was probably 6 or 7 years ago. Because I did go through a few years of difficulty. But at that point, my reaction to pain was mostly just anger and frustration and this. And I hustled. I worked like crazy. I read fucking Grant Cardone's book, The 10X Rule, every month for a year, made $1 million that year and paid back every fucking dollar. But it was weird because even though I was able to pay back every dollar, the rest went to taxes, the rest went to this, that, and the other. And I had $1 million that I made and I made nothing. So I paid for a fucking embezzlement and I paid taxes. And at the end of the day, I had some cash in operating and I was just in the same place I was before the embezzlement. So it's weird. You make $1 million and you give it all to fucking government.
But you have a weight that was removed off your shoulders.
Kind of. At that point.
And where you are on that map is different. The same. Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Where you are on that map is different.
Because once you've broken through a threshold, you're in a different position. But you're not necessarily in it. Look, dude, if you took it all away from me right now, 12 to 24 months. That's what I need to get it back. Every single nickel. Take it all. Every single nickel. I will get it all back and more in 12 to 24 months.
Have you seen that show where they get these billionaires and, well, I don't know if they're all billionaires. I think they're all billionaires. And they have them go to some little town somewhere with, I think, I'm going to make up numbers just to explain what they're doing with the show. I don't know, a few $100, and they send them to this town and they have a month, I believe it is, to build $1 million business.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that show? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You already have the tools though. You already have the knowledge.
Let me give you an example. Okay. I did this. I didn't do the show. I haven't seen the show. I've heard about the show. It sounds like a really fucking cool show. We decided to launch a business in December of last year. Then we launched it. Okay. By the end of January, we had 40 members paying us $2,000 a month. We have north of 60 now.
Nice.
Okay. Do me a favor. Let's play with it, right?
That's $120,000 a month.
Right. Well, no, at the 60 it is, but I want to go with the 1 year. We opened the business officially on January 5th. So let's go with 1 month.
Okay.
That's what these undercover billionaires have, right? They have 1 month. So at the end of January, we had about 40 members paying us $2,000 a month. $80,000 a month, right? What's $1 million business? Businesses are sold on multiples. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
What's a residuals business? It's a 13 multiple. So let's say I'd never grown it past that and I had 12 months worth of revenue.
906,000.
Right. And then I subtracted costs. Let's say it was 300,000 for all the employees and everybody. Okay. Times 13.
You keep 2/3? That's pretty good margin.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's the value of that company.
Oh, okay.
In 30 fucking days.
Right.
That's what it takes.
$8.5 million.
Yeah. That's 30 days. You can do anything. I mean, every business, you want to create $1 million business. Look, small business has shrank since the 1970s. It's gone down by 70%. Why? Because more people are sold on the idea of getting jobs. So less small businesses open. Everybody's bought into this belief that they can't compete with big business. You know what big business doesn't have that small business does?
Personal touch.
Flexibility.
Oh.
And personal touch. I mean, there's a fucking list. You have so many advantages. as a small business that a big business does not have any advantage on. Okay.
That's something I take into consideration when I invest in companies. When I buy their stock, I look at how many employees they have. If they've got 10,000 employees, they're probably not very malleable. They
You
can't
cannot change the
they
culture.
can't shift much. But if they
Mhm.
have 25 employees, they can change a lot.
Right. And so when you turn around and you take a look at that and you say, okay, small business has gone down by 70% since the 1970s. Huh. Walmart opened in the worst tax environment ever, the 1970s. Huh. They want a heart-centered approach. They want that personal touch, as you mentioned. Well, if there's less competitors, there's a beneficial tax environment. There's potentially enormous inflation, which means any amount of debt that I'm going to take right now could get offset just by them printing more money, which the government spent 6.6 trillion last year.
Yep.
What'd they make? 3 trillion? Come on. Fucking how much money they printed? 29 trillion in national debt? How much inflation do you think we're going to have? We're going to have a fuck ton, right?
So much.
So would it not be the best time ever to buy a company, to open a company?
Now, certainly. I mean, money is almost free right now. It basically is free depending on how you look at the calculations, how you do the math. The interest rates are so low. And one of the things that people are going to have to ask themselves 20 years from now is, what did I do when money was free? When I could have gotten a bunch of money and it would have costed me next to nothing.
Right. I literally say you go out and you owner finance a business from a seller right now, and you do it where you're making just enough to where you have a job. And then inflation hits continuously over the next 5 years, the same way it did this year. Do you think the stock market went up 24% because people sold that much more shit? No. The stock market went up 24% because we printed that much more money.
Oh, sure.
And actually, we printed far more money than that. They say there was probably $2.5 to $5 trillion in circulation in all of America, frankly, in all the world, because we're a reserve currency, before COVID. How much was the PPP loan? 3 trillion? They just did it again. So we've quadrupled the money supply without quadrupling the people supply. So say you go borrow $1 million directly from the owner of a company that wants to sell. We are in the single greatest financial opportunity that has ever hit Earth, and we don't even recognize it. You can go out, find a 60 to 70-year-old person that wants to sell their business. Have them owner finance. You go learn the business, have them teach you for a month or two, then finance it from them. Make sure it pays you just enough money to where you could get by, have a living, have a life, and pay them their interest. Once inflation hits, what the fuck do you think happens? Well, once it hits, it's already hitting. As it keeps hitting over the next several years,
it's ongoing. Yep.
Cash and debt's going to devalue. It's not going to be the 3.6% annual inflation we've had. It was fucking 24%. Just based on the stock market. We're not looking at it. We don't see it. We don't see what's clearly fucking displayed in front of us. And we don't even realize it. Bro, I opened a business and in 30 days, it was worth $8 million. You take everything I fucking have away from me. No, I'm keeping that shit. Why? That's another thing. When I'm 70, I'll sell businesses.
Yeah.
When I'm 80, I'll sell businesses.
You're having too much fun right now.
Yeah. Why would
That's why I was asking you what motivates you. You got so many businesses. You do so much. Clearly, you're doing well. Why have so many businesses? Why not go from 12 to, I don't know, 6 or 8?
Well, why? Why go from that? Why would you sell an asset?
You enjoy it. You enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah. And I'm not even doing it anymore. I'm automating them. Now I've got people giving me pieces of their companies to come in and automate their companies.
Right.
I had a guy the other day who was like, hey, you know what? And we haven't closed the deal yet. And I'm not going to say anything else about like his specific deal, but he's like, I'll give you 30% of my company. Come and help me like get it automated. Dude, literally like there's 3 areas where I can cut expenses. 1 area where I can increase value. And I'm going to have this guy's business up by like 60, 70, 80%.
Jesus.
He's going to give me 30% of the company. I'm going to tune it. All he had to do was go watch my second fucking TikTok and use that for me. But I'm going to pause if that's okay, because I'm going to use the men's room really quick.
Go for it.
All right.
You're back.
Yeah.
I forgot what we were talking about, but that's okay, because I wanted to ask you about Grant Cardone. He's somebody that I've watched his videos for a while. And sometimes I'm just going to say it. It might sound like I'm dissing the guy. I'm not. I'm not sure at times how much he's selling real estate and how much he's selling hype. I feel like his videos, there's a lot of hype, and I want to I guess I don't know enough to separate, like to actually evaluate his content when he talks about real estate. But you said that you've used it, you've read his book, and you've had tremendous success with it. Give us your thoughts on that.
So, I mean, what I'll say about Grant, and I have not met him in person. I'll meet him in person in the next week and a half. He actually did an invite to a group I'm a part of, which is a very small and elite group,
Cool.
to come out and meet him personally and spend a day with him. I have no idea what the value proposition is or the pitch is, but it was like a $3,000 a plate meal, which is not expensive to get in a room with Grant. And so we all came in and said, let's go jump into that and see what's going on. But I'm looking forward to meet him because a lot of people have similar questions to that. Here's what I know. When I read his book, The 10X Rule, I learned a lot about hustle. Now, I've always been a hard worker, but I've been a hard worker because I'm passionate. I've always had this theory that you don't need to hustle, you need to fall in love. Then again, when I got robbed, when we got embezzled, you're not going to fall in love. Then I just wanted to not be $250,000 in debt to my trust accounts, right? So at that point, it wasn't about love. It was about hustle. Like, I had to hustle. You hustle when you're in pain. But when you're not in pain, you fucking fall in love. That's what you should do. And so I spent that year, and it was probably the hardest year of my life. I worked harder than I've ever worked. I ran faster than I've ever run. I accomplished far less in that year than I do normally in a month now. But had I not read that book over and over again and been able to push through, I don't know if I'd have gotten out of there. I don't know if I'd have figured that out. So there's a lot to Grant. He's wildly intelligent. He's got very good content. I think he recognizes that the whole world's in pain, so they don't know how to fall in love. They've lost that. Love is the meaning of life. I mean, it's built on the foundation of kindness. When's the last time you saw somebody being kind to somebody else? It's kind of rare. People get married now, 66% divorce rate in California. And, the women all like to say that it's the men, but the majority of filings are from the woman. So I wonder who the problem really is with. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's communication. Maybe it's pain from all sides, because people don't even know how to fucking be nice to each other anymore. And
or how to communicate. A lot of people know how to talk, but they don't know how to communicate.
Absolutely. And so Grant, I think, is pushing the hustle. For the hustlers who are massively in pain, what do they need? They need the hype.
Right.
Like, and they need the hype to know that there is, gold at the end of the rainbow. I don't know that there actually is gold at the end of that hustle rainbow, at least for not 99.9% of people that go out and start the hustle. Most people I've seen that hustle their way through fail. When you fall in love with someone, I mean, how do you raise a child? You fall in love with the child. How do you raise a business? You fall in love with the business, because hustle is effect, not cause. The labor of love doesn't feel like work. When you love your business and you give it 14, 16 hours a day, you go home and you're still thinking about it. You wake up and you're still thinking about it. You're inspired. You're in love.
Right.
Like, I don't have a problem giving 12, 14, 18 hours a day to something I love.
Some might say you're obsessed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he wrote a book called Be Average or Be Obsessed, right? Or Be Obsessed or Be Average, which is very similar, but it's almost the contrarian point to the 10X rule. The 10X rule is you have to do 10 times more if you want it to work. Now, there's some truth to that, because, if you're good, you're worthless these days. Everybody's good. Why? Technology's made everybody good. If you're great, nobody's going to notice. If you're fucking outstanding, if you're doing 10 times more than anybody else, maybe you'll actually get noticed.
Right.
If you're saying something 10 times more controversial, maybe you'll actually get noticed.
Right.
What do I think of Grant? I don't know. I'm excited to meet him. I admire him.
So not individually. I know you haven't met him personally, but from his work, from that book, like what are the things that
I'd give him credit for? I'd give him credit for giving me the content I needed to get out of the pain in that moment.
Cool. Okay, great.
I have a lot of respect for him. I mean, and that being said, like, do I always resonate with his style? Nah, you know what? I don't personally, but
I'm like that with Gary V. I find him too ranty.
Yeah,
But I like him. He's actually probably like he was like the final piece of the puzzle of me starting this podcast because I had
Really?
been thinking about it for a while. But then I was watching Gary Vee videos, and he was constantly start a podcast, start up. He was like on this podcast rant for like 2 months, and then at the end of it, I was like, "Fuck, all right, Gary, I'll start a podcast." Like that's when I decided to do it. So I'm gonna meet him someday. I'll be like, "Man, thanks." That's why that was the final push that I needed.
And that's beautiful because you don't have to resonate with everything anyone says. If you can get one thing from every person that you admire and interact with, your life's going to change dynamically.
Yeah, let me give you a specific question. This is from a Grant Cardone video because I do watch his stuff. Like I said, I like the guy. I just sometimes I'm not sure about many things, but one of the things that he talks about when it comes to real estate investments is well, there are two things I want to get your thoughts on. Never invest in a single door property. Don't buy like people, go buy a house and they want to rent it out. His recommendation is at least 16 doors. And then the other thing is make sure that the monthly return is 1% of the total cost of the investment. So if you buy a $200,000 house, let's say, and you want to rent it out, you should rent it out for at least $2,000 a month. So what do you think about the single door property thing? If somebody, because there's all these people that want to buy a house and rent it out and create passive income. This idea is just so popular with everyone. But is it actually what would you if somebody told you that, what advice would you give them? Buy a house and rent it out or wait until you can buy a 16 door apartment complex?
So I mean that's part of the area where I appreciate Grant and I admire a lot of the things that he's done, but I completely and utterly disagree with what he says there. Okay. Anytime these gurus get up and they start speaking and they start teaching, they create complexity. And the reason they create complexity is because if it's too complicated for you to do it, then you're not going to do it. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to keep paying attention to them and you're going to keep paying them. You pay them two ways. You pay them with attention, you pay them with money. Anytime you're paying attention to somebody, you are giving them your energy. You're giving them your fucking focus. Where focus goes, energy flows. So now, why would I say it's bullshit that you should never buy something with one door? Well, is a home you live in an asset or a liability? Sure, it's a liability. But it's a liability that's a lot fucking cheaper than renting. So you should definitely buy something with one door for you to live in. Okay. Why? Because it's cheaper than renting. Like, period X. They've done study after study after study, and there's no way anyone can fucking prove, unless you're a complete idiot and you do something totally stupid, that renting is more beneficial over 20, 30 years. Because at least a house can be kind of a savings account if you live there. Now, when it comes to investing, here's some upsides to single family real estate that's a win. Is it ever going to be as much of a win as, say, multifamily in a balanced, even market? From a cash flow standpoint, no, not necessarily, because here's why. You have three different types of appraisals. You have a cost appraisal, which is used for like government buildings, churches. You have an income appraisal, which is used for apartments. It's used for shopping centers. It's used for self-storage facilities, things like this. And you're measuring the value of the product based on the money it makes you. So it's specifically designed for income, and that's how you value it. And then there's houses, which are market approach appraisals. Now, anything on a market approach is going to have upsides and downsides. Downsides, you're not going to make the money. Most people that are single family home investors in good markets break even, make a couple $100s a month. Are they making 1% of the asset? Fuck no. But here's the other side. In a bad market, who can sell? Not the guy with the multifamily. He's fucked. Especially if he bought right now. Right now, the market is showing multifamily products at like 3 and 4 caps. People are buying money losing deals. Well, if the market goes down, if we are in a bubble and that market goes down, because it's all income approach. So if inflation takes 5 years too long, because we know inflation's coming, we don't know how quick, right? So if inflation takes 5 years too long, you're losing so much money you can't sell. What are you going to have to sell on? What's your appraisal coming in at? What's the next guy going to buy and finance at? Fucking income approach appraisal. Well, the market just said that you bought at the high, you can't fucking sell it, you're stuck. Houses you can. Here's why I say it's complexity. If you don't have the ability to go buy 16 doors right now because you don't have the assets, you don't have the revenue, you don't have all of that, shouldn't you start at the beginning of the staircase? Flip a fucking house.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep it. Create 20, 30 grand. Then do another one. Then do another one. I mean, should you wait? No. And I've heard him say things like that where it's like, you know what? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? It's not about doing one thing or another. Look, I have apartment complexes. I have shopping centers. I have houses. If you go talk to Ray Dalio, he says, diversify, 15 uncorrelated assets. You know what is nothing like a house? An apartment complex. If I wanted to liquidate $5 million right now, I could literally go sell 25, 30, 40 houses. I could do that in 10 minutes. I could make a phone call, liquidate $5 million. If I have one property that's a multifamily property that I want to liquidate that same amount of money with, I may not be able to do it. It may be larger, maybe smaller, maybe this, maybe that. I mean, do both. Why the fuck would you do one?
Right.
Like, this idea that you can only go one direction is such a stupid fucking idea. Like that's like, hey, dude, only own a home building company. You should never also open the title company so that you can process your own titles and make money. Don't ever open up your own real estate brokerage so that you have transparent information on exactly what the market wants. You know what? If you ever keep properties, don't open a property management business. You should not have multiple revenue streams. That would be really dumb.
Right.
If somebody tells you that shit, punch them in the face because they're a fucking retard. Don't punch them in the face.
Yeah, figuratively. The buying versus renting, he's really big on too. He always rants in all his videos. Like a lot of his videos that I've listened to is like, don't buy a house because that's dead money. What do you think about that concept of dead money?
I think anything that's an inflation hedge is not dead money. And I think 99% of his following doesn't have the ability to go buy apartments, but they do have the ability to go buy a house.
Right.
And if you have an inflation hedge investment, like if there's inflation, say over the next 10 years, we have 100% inflation. Well, then that house just doubled in fucking value in 10 years. And if you didn't have the ability to do an apartment complex, so you just didn't do shit, you lost a huge opportunity.
Yeah, you've just been paying rent this whole time.
Yeah, and your tenants could, or even buy it as a rental.
Yeah, I'm talking about your residence, your home.
Oh, fucking A. Like, why would people argue with a home as a residence? That doesn't make sense. You know what? If you're in California and you're in one of these stupid fucking markets where homes are so far overvalued because,
because the state's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
then no. But I mean, if you're in a reasonable area where so you got to look at the cost benefit analysis on everything. I mean, why people don't look at a cost benefit analysis on everything, it kind of shocks me. Like, I think everything is a cost benefit analysis, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Eating Big Macs versus like healthy food cooked at home is a cost benefit analysis. You know what? The Big Mac is a lot fucking easier. I can drive through. I can get it in 2 minutes. You know what? Will it kill me in 20 years? Yep. I can just keep fucking eating that shit. I'll have cancer or heart disease and die, but it's a lot fucking easier. You know what? Maybe you balance it. Maybe you have a Big Mac once a month. Maybe you eat healthy food most of the fucking time. Right. Maybe it's not one way or another. Maybe do both, Right. Like, I don't always want to cook, but it's a cost benefit analysis. Like, if you're in a market where you could rent for $1,000 a month, but you could buy for $10,000 a month, don't be a moron. If you get the same fucking lifestyle for $1,000 a month that you get for $10,000 a month, don't be a moron.
What's interesting about El Paso, I bought my house, it's almost been 2 years now. And when I was looking at buying a property, obviously this depends on the value of the house that you want. And so mine is pretty reasonable. But when I was doing the math on whether to buy or rent, because again, I was listening to Grant Cardone, actually my accountant at the time had advised me to rent instead of buy, because he's like, you want to keep as much money on hand as possible so that when there's a good opportunity in the market, whatever that is, stocks or real estate or anything else, you have capital. Because if you don't have capital, opportunities just pass you by. And I think that's there's truth to that, and people need to balance out. They can't put all their capital into one thing, then they have nothing. But when I was looking at the market in El Paso, it was actually more expensive to rent. Any decent apartment was going for $950 to $1,100 a month, whereas like, if you put down 20% on what's the average house cost of a house in El Paso 2 years ago, not right now. What was it, like 180,000?
Probably 160, I'd say 2 years ago.
It's 2 years ago. So 160.
180 now.
Okay. So 160 2 years ago, you put down 20%. That's a little over $30,000. It's like $32,000, I think. And then your monthly payment's going to be something like, I don't know, $400. And then taxes are going to be another $400 probably, because the taxes are so damn high in this state. Mm-hmm. But now you have a house for $800 a month, and some of that money is going to your principal. Some of that money is tax deductible because of the mortgage interest and the taxes and all this other stuff.
And the depreciation. Like, people don't think about the depreciation. Are you not familiar with depreciation?
So the idea behind buying a house is that it appreciates, not depreciates, unless
it appreciates in value. But you still, with all types of real estate, get this tax write-off called IRS depreciation.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
how
So
does
it's
that
like
work?
29 to 31 years. Okay. It's one of the reasons the rich stay rich.
Okay.
All right. So here, watch this. I bought a $2 million building.
I'm locked in right now. I want to know about this.
Okay. I bought a $2 million building recently.
Apartment building?
No, this one was a retail center.
Okay.
And I don't remember whether it's 29 or 31 years, but you need to ask your accountant about what it is because there's different types of depreciation on different types of real estate. But for round numbers, just average it over 30 years. So divide that by 30 years.
Just sorry, real quick. Try to talk towards the mic because you're.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
So that number on a $2 million building gets taken right off my taxes every fucking year.
Whoa.
Every year I get a $66,000.
You just got a text.
Yeah, who cares? I get a $66,000 tax write-off. Why? Because there's functional depreciation on any asset.
Gotcha.
When I bought my airplane last year, I wrote off $1 million right off my taxes because I did what's called rapid depreciation. There's things people now, is the property appreciating in price? Yes. Is it appreciating in value? Maybe. Value and price are completely different things.
You're talking about desirability.
Value is measured in a thing called utils. Appraisers, whether they're appraising jewelry, whether they're appraising real estate, no matter what they're appraising the utility value of the product, how much enjoyment you're getting out of the product or service.
So the value of a product is what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Now, the price, when you live in a system like ours where money is fluid, where the government can print trillions of dollars and affect the value of money. Because you got to think, if the value of money goes down like this, even though the value of the asset didn't change, because you got the same level of enjoyment out of the asset, because that's what it is. You enjoy a certain asset, a certain amount. But then they devalue money and we use money for exchanges. What happened to price up here?
Mm-hmm.
So you get depreciation, which is a write-off. Okay. Appreciation. There's this thing called an internal rate of return. And bro, like right now, if you can get real estate, you're going to win.
Right now.
The government quadrupled the amount of money in the market. They doubled at best, quadrupled at worst, the amount of money in the market. Have we quadrupled or doubled the amount of people in the market?
No.
Now, if we know that the rules of economics is supply, demand, and government, those are the three factors of economics. Everybody always says it's two. It's three. You don't believe me? Look at the fucking PPP loans. Just recently. Holy fuck. Trillions dumped into the market, forgiven.
Right.
Literally the biggest corporate welfare we've ever seen. Forgiven. This is not even including what's been given to the people. Trillions. We've doubled to quadrupled the amount of money in the market. If there's twice the money in the market, does that mean banks are sitting on twice the money in the accounts? Does that mean they have more money to loan out? Does that mean there's more fee income? There's more this, there's more that. Will that not eventually create inflation?
Right.
Do you really think the stock market went up 24% last year because companies did so much fucking better during COVID? Or could it be that the government printed so much fucking money that it caused inflation?
It's a lot of the money, but with that specific example, it's also because a lot of the companies in the Fortune 500 did a lot better last year. Netflix, Amazon, Walmart.
Oh, sure. The tech companies did great. The tech companies did amazing.
Even Home Depot, everybody was painting their garage during the pandemic.
There were definitely companies that did great. Yes. I'm not disputing.
I know what you're saying too. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of it is probably the money that got pumped into the economy. We're involved in an experiment right now. This has never been done. We're going to see what happens, and that's a huge part of it. But yeah, also a part of why the economical picture of the country may not be as healthy as it once was. The Fortune 500 is doing better. It's because a lot of those companies that lead the Fortune 500 did have record year last year.
So there are a lot of companies that did great, but here's a couple of trends that you need to look at.
Okay.
Would you say Bitcoin did great over the last 12 months?
Phenomenal.
Why?
No clue.
So Bitcoin, I believe, did well because it's a blockchain technology. We're coming up on a time where geopolitically, there's countries in the world that are world powers on par with the United States. India and China are not, if you study geopolitics, that far behind us. These are enormous economies. China does not have anywhere near the level of debt that we have. China is a strong economy. Right now, the world, since World War II, we're coming up on the end of what's called a long-term debt cycle. Study it with Ray Dalio. He's amazing. And we're at the end of a short-term debt cycle. We're going to see an adjustment. We have the reserve currency. The United States has the reserve currency. Everyone on earth does international trade in dollars. Do you think China appreciates that?
Doubt it.
No, they're kind of pissed. In fact, they've invested $1 trillion in buying gold so they can back a cryptocurrency that they formed. Isn't that fucking strange?
Is that Asia Broadband?
I don't fucking know the name of them all. But, and I'm not an expert in cryptocurrency. However, when you have a blockchain technology which forces fairness, which forces equality, which removes an enormous advantage that we as the United States have. If you were China, would you be promoting getting rid of the American reserve currency? If you were every other country on earth that didn't appreciate American imperialism through monetary policy that we use to flex on the entire fucking world, would you be advocating that we didn't have the reserve currency? If you studied reserve currency and the history of every reserve currency ever, because we're not the only people that have had them, we're only the most recent. It always starts with a country that does really good, and then they have a currency that's based on an asset, just like our dollar used to be based on gold. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Long time ago.
Then they move away from an asset-driven currency. Then they print and borrow money. Then they create massive inflation to devalue debt. Then they lose their reserve currency because every other country that deals with them is pissed. So we now have a viable source of a new reserve currency for international trade in a global economy that's not really happy with our monetary imperialism. We also have the worst government debt we've ever had. We just surpassed levels from World War II.
Sure
In
is.
World War II, we financed fucking war. And relative to the amount of money and the amount of income in our country at that time, debt levels were roughly the same as they are, not quite as bad as they are now. We just passed them. We actually were able to pay off debt back then. You know why? Because since we bombed the whole world, we were able to sell them food and groceries and goods and all this other shit. You know, you bomb them all, you can sell them shit. Well, so we're in so much national debt right now, never been seen before. We need one of three things to happen. The politicians, don't worry about how their fucking lips move. Worry about how their feet move. Worry about what they're actually doing. That's how you measure trends and trajectory. They all say these tagline hypocritical statements. They're fucking impossible to do. And then they say it and everybody believes them. And then there's a scandal because they can't fucking do it.
Right.
Look at it right now. Look at it with everybody said, oh, Trump's putting children in cages. Wait a minute. Aren't those the cages that Obama's administration built?
Right.
And it's strange that they're the cages that Biden hasn't gotten rid of yet, even though it was used to hate on Trump. I'm not supporting Trump. I really don't like any politician. But now it's a scandal that they're all coming after Biden because the same cages are there. Fuck. Huh. Isn't that strange? So these guys all talk. Don't worry about how their fucking lips move. They're politicians. You know how you measure a politician? You measure his pain. You measure his pleasure. When you measure what kind of pain he's in, and $29 trillion of national debt's a lot of pain.
It's a lot of pain.
They have to find a way out. What is the only three ways out? Well, you can become more socialist and communize all of the businesses and keep the profits of the businesses for the governments. Have we become a little more liberal? I think so. You can become a warmonger, finance a really expensive war, bomb the whole world, and then sell them shit. We can't afford to do that. We've already borrowed so much money that we can't afford to do the war. So that one is fortunately out. At least on a large scale, it's out. Not necessarily on a small scale. Can we fuck with Syria or North Korea or things like that? Yeah, we can. But I mean, we're not going to sell the whole world food like we did after World War II.
Right.
Or three, you can create inflation. What's the easiest one, by the way? Take all of the businesses away from all Americans who have more guns than any population on earth? That's probably going to be difficult. Can we make them a little more liberal over time? Maybe. Can we take everything away from everybody? Probably not. But inflation, that's a real option. And if we've got countries, 1.5 billion person countries like China, 1 billion person countries like India, advocating that America has been a poor steward of the financial system that controls the entire earth. And pretty much everybody in Europe probably agrees with them at this point. What would be wrong with a blockchain technology replacing our world currency? And if that's the case, then what risk do we have for creating massive inflation now, getting out of debt right fucking now? And by the way, all of this goes back to why you should buy a lot of fucking real estate, because it's an inflation hedge, even now. People think we're in a bubble. They have no idea what we're doing. Remember, optics. What kills you is what you don't see coming. But if you can see it coming, my prediction right now, within the next 10 years, we will lose the reserve currency. Within the next 10 years, we will create massive inflation. We will always be a dominant player on this earth, at least for our lifetimes, but we will not be the number one economy on earth, okay? Not in the next 10, 15, 25 years. We will lose our number one seat, if for no other reason than population ages. You look at a country like Italy, where the average age is what? Fucking 60 or 70? They have not replaced themselves with young people. We're balanced. Countries like China are fairly young. Countries like India are very young. They're replacing us from a productivity standpoint. We have all of our employees, unfortunately, the really stupid ones, saying, oh, we all want to work from home. We don't want to go to work anymore. It's a Zoom reality. We have all of our employers saying, oh, we'll just hire people from India because they want to work from home too. You don't think that working from home makes you massively replaceable? How strange that people just don't fucking think. While all of these things are going on, brother, real estate will be one of the single greatest hedges, inflation-wise, on earth. That's my prediction. But
historically, it always has. Historically, it always has been.
Oh yeah.
I just look at the market right now as buying a stock at its all-time high, and I'm one of those people who's waiting for a pullback. But I don't know if I'll ever get one.
I think in the next 12 to 18 months, you will not. Then look, you're going to get a pullback. The problem is how much is it going to go up before you do?
Yeah, true. And I don't know if actually we'll see that much of a pullback in El Paso, just because like anything with supply and demand, there's a lot more demand right now than there is supply. You're a home builder. Can you keep up with how many people want you to build them houses?
No, we just raised our prices massively again.
Why wouldn't you?
Your price, if you're in business, should be dictated by what people want to pay for it, not what you want to sell it for. If people are saying, so we had a house at like, I think 280, and we couldn't keep it on the ground. We sell that same house. This is 3 months ago at $350 now. 3 months worth of inflation, $70,000.
Jesus.
Yeah, I think we sold 14 of those this month.
Amazing. That's amazing. What do you, when it comes to flipping houses, what advice do you have for people when it comes, like if they want to enter that line of work, they've saved up some cash, they've got a down payment for a house, they've got $40,000-$50,000.
So if you're flipping houses, my recommendation, you need to get a hold of Valentina Samaniego with Entrust Capital Funding here in El Paso. She runs a revolutionary financing company that there's no one else like it. If you're negotiating your deal right, which she'll teach you how to do it for free, the same shit that all the guys come into town and try to sell you for 50 grand, she gives it away for free. Like what Than Merrill and they teach the We Buy Houses stuff and all that stuff comes in town and they give you the $100 seminar, then the $1,000 seminar, then the $50,000 bullshit.
Yeah.
She gives you that education for free. Then when you find a deal, she loans you the money on a loan with no prepayment penalty. All of it. Enough to buy it and enough to repair it. I know, because she's loaning out my money. Nice. I gave her $4 million last month to make loans. If you want to get into flipping, borrow money at 100% right now. Okay?
Borrow money at 100%?
Absolutely.
What do you mean at 100%? Like as much as you can get?
Oh, fuck yeah. So
okay,
we don't have a down payment requirement. Our down payment requirement is your deal. So say you've got a deal where it's a $200,000 house and you're buying it for 120 and you need 20 to repair it. I loan 70% of what it will be worth when you're done. Meaning if it's a $200,000 house and you're buying it at 120 and you need 20 grand to repair it, I'll loan you 140 all day long. Now I draw the 20 grand out for repairs as you do the work. So I hold that back. And as you put in the carpet, here's the money. As you put in the paint, here's the money. As you put in the whatever you're doing, like new roof shingles or new appliances, fuck it, who cares? Here's the money. I draw that over time to make sure you've done it before I give that out. But you can literally get financed 100%. Is it higher interest? Sure. I mean, I think our loans start at like 7.9 or something like that, but 8%, who gives a fuck? Like if you're going to pay me interest for 3 months and I financed you 100%, holy shit, you create money. Your deal got you the money. There's far more people with money than there are with deals. And I'm not the only lender that would do this. I might be the only lender here that would do this, but if somebody's watching your show and they're in Vegas, Go talk to 10 hard money lenders and ask them if they would do that as long as your deal is good enough. I'll bet you find one.
Probably. How do you identify a good deal? What are the things you look for to say, okay, this is a property I'm going to put my money in?
So I'll tell you a fun story. I mean, so there's 4 places: death, drugs, disease, divorce. If you want to find a good deal, especially in housing, you need to find a good deal from a place where people need to sell quick. They need to sell now. The house represents a problem, not a solution to them. And so, when somebody has died without a will, which frankly is common, and there's 10 heirs fighting over it, and they fight over it for 10 or 15 years, the house generally falls apart over that amount of time, or is at least outdated. I went out when I was young, when I started my business, and I just talked to probate attorneys. I said, hey, you know what? I'm a real estate agent. I'm also an investor. I know that you frequently get a bunch of heirs fighting over a property, not sure of the value. What I'm going to do is give you the value of the property if it's fixed up. I'll give you a bid on how much I would charge you to fix it up, and then I'll give you a cash offer. Everybody takes the cash offer. You know why? Because the heirs don't want to screw with it.
Right.
And I go out there, and you know what? The attorney wants you to buy it from them because they don't want to deal with the heirs for the next 10 years fighting over something that they all think is worth millions of dollars. It's really worth 40 grand. It's not worth their time. The attorney, especially if they have a soul, they want that cleaned up quickly because the longer it goes, the more attorney fees there are, the less all of the heirs get, the more pissed off they are.
Right.
And the attorneys don't want people pissed off either. So if they have a soul, they're like, let's get this fucking done quick. You know what? Go with the investor. Either that or one of you guys pick up some money, put the 30 grand in, he's telling you whether you go with him or somebody else and get it done. And so I'd literally go out and I'd offer to repair it for them. I'd offer to buy it from them. And if they wanted to go get it repaired and do all that and they didn't want to use me, I'd offer to list it for them and sell it for them. What's crazy is I got business out of it all the time. I made friends with 6 or 7 probate attorneys. I was always getting 5 or 6 deals a month.
Nice.
Always.
That's awesome.
When you build a business, you got to look at it from problems or gifts. These attorneys had a problem. What was their problem? They had an asset that was worth peanuts. They had a bunch of people that were heirs of that family member that thought it was worth a lot more that were fighting. Once I came to the attorney who was not a real estate professional and I gave him documentation and data, I did not manage the situation. I measured it and I gave him a way to prove the measurements. And then he was able to go with a reasonable presentation and say, guys, look, here's what you really have. I know what you think you have, but frankly, here's what you really have. Let's come to Jesus on this. Otherwise, this is going to become, something where the courts will deal with it. And you don't want that because it's going to drive up fees. It's going to drive up costs. You'll all make nothing. That attorney then gets it done. You solve a problem for the attorney. You solve a problem for the heirs. You get the heirs more money. You get the attorney paid quicker. You get everybody taken care of. And you buy a house. That's one way. Drugs. I put up flyers in the Opportunity Center for the Homeless. Do you know how many homeless people actually have homes? It's fucking insane. I can tell you, it's crazy.
Awesome.
I put up flyers in the Opportunity Center for the Homeless. I'll buy your house cash. I bought so many houses. I remember sitting in a hotel room on Dyer with the fucking heroin needles on the table next to me. I'm signing a goddamn contract, and I'm like, holy shit, I need to get the fuck out of here. They got some drug money. I got a house.
That's amazing.
I mean, people make bad decisions.
Of course.
The 1D that you're really looking for is decision making. If people are making good decisions in life, if people are honoring each other, love is the meaning of life. It's built on a foundation of kindness. If people are honoring each other and being kind, you're never going to see them. But the people who are toxic to one another, who are destroying one another, who are pissing all over one another, they're going to need you to buy their house. That house represents a pain point in their life. And you can be kind to them and help them out of pain. Their decisions put them in pain. You can help them out of pain quickly. You can be honorable about it, transparent about it. And I would show people like, look, here's what a general contractor would charge you. Don't believe me? Go get a bid. You know what's crazy? The general contractors would always bid higher than I fucking did. So you're being honest with somebody. You're giving them real answers. You're helping them out of it. You're buying a fucking house. You're creating money. Mm-hmm. I guess Grant Cardone really was wrong. Holy shit. You can get 100% financing. You can literally get a deal done where you got all the money, all of this, all of that. You created money. And if you held it long enough, it became an inflation hedge. You can also, at that point, we have no prepayment penalty. If you want to buy it, fix it up, and then go refinance it, You have no money in the deal. Go to your favorite mortgage lender, refinance at one of these 3% interest rates. I don't give a shit if you sell it or refinance it. Then keep it and rent the shit out.
Yeah. Do you have well, let me ask it differently, because you already said, why not do everything? You like to do everything. I've always felt like, I just want to get your thoughts on this. If I was going to get into real estate, and I do plan on getting into real estate at some point, but I'd like to focus on commercial real estate for the simple fact that I feel that residential's got a lot of problems. Whereas
everything's got a lot of problems.
Yeah, but the problems with an apartment or a house are far more than the problems with a warehouse where you have a concrete floor and a metal box. I just feel like there's a lot less that could go wrong in that kind of business. In storage units, I love storage units. It seems like we never have enough storage units in El Paso. Like Fort Bliss keeps growing, guys get deployed, they need a place to put their stuff. We keep building storage units on every street corner. For years now, I've been wanting to build some, and I just keep seeing them popping up everywhere, and it doesn't seem like we're meeting the demand anytime soon.
Do you know why I got into residential real estate?
Tell me.
So I had the exact same thought initially as you. I said, man, residential real estate has so many problems. Man, there's all this issues with owning residential real estate. Man, you know what? The people in commercial real estate are so much more sophisticated, and I'd love to go work there and be classy and wear a suit and do all this. I didn't want to wear a suit, but outside of that. Well, then I realized, and this is unfortunate, and I'm not trying to knock people, but it's true, how low the bar was set in residential real estate. The professional in that industry is so fucking emotional and so illogical that I realized that if I went in there with my amount of logic and my amount of talent, they couldn't match me.
Mm-hmm.
Yet if I went into commercial real estate where everybody had a CCIM education, where everybody was highly logical, where they were sophisticated and scientific about everything they did, then I'd have to compete. I don't like to go into markets where I have to compete. I like to go into markets where it's easy to dominate because everybody's triggered about every little fucking thing, and so I can own it before they even know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Measure the market. Because, look, residential makes me rich, and I buy a lot of commercial real estate.
Okay. Are you talking about buying and selling houses, or like what your rental properties? Do you have more residential than commercial, or is it pretty balanced out?
I'd say these days I'm probably heaviest in hard money loans.
Okay.
And then I also have a good sized portfolio of residential homes.
Look, what I'm saying is, I just feel like if I own 20 warehouse units and 20 apartments, the amount of calls and shit that I'm going to have to deal with the 20 apartments is going to be a lot more than it will be with the warehouses.
So from an investor standpoint, that's true and not true. If you're managing it, that's true. But why would you manage anything?
But even if you're not directly managing it, let's say I hire a property manager, there's still costs associated with those repairs and everything else that's going to have to be done on those properties. I feel like there's a lot more that could go wrong. Like, I know somebody who had rental properties years ago. They evicted a tenant one time. The son of a bitch poured cement into toilets.
Yeah. I mean, look, these are all costs of doing business. However, here's another side that you may not be looking at. The market fluctuations based on international trade and government policy on warehouses is going to be so much different than that on apartments, than that on single family homes. Say this trade agreement that was just created where we pretty much have unlimited international trade, Mexico, Canada, United States.
Uh-huh.
Say that goes away. What's that going to do to the warehouse industry? It's going to destroy it. What would that do to the apartment industry? Nothing.
People still need a place to live.
There's need-based businesses and there's greed-based businesses. Toilet paper, that's a need. Paper towels, that's greed. One will do good in all markets. Okay. One will do good in some markets. Greed-based businesses get you rich. Look, home building, that's kind of a weird mix between need and greed. I say that because I'm more on the luxury side of production housing, but I could pivot very quickly and I could get on to just the production side of production housing and not even worry about the luxury side. You want to make luxury margins, sell luxury products.
Jacob's Astronomy, $1 million watch. Well, you don't seem very greedy. The way you were talking about how you compensate your employees earlier, you offer them what they're worth and then some so that they don't leave. You understand their value to your company. Or are you being greedy because you don't want them to leave? But you're not looking at the money. You're looking at them as an asset and what they provide you with. And you're like, yeah, I'll pay you more money because you're going to make me a lot more than some idiot that I'm going to have to take a chance on.
So let's look at the definition of the word greed. Okay. Am I being greedy? No, because I'm bringing in people that aren't like me. If I was convincing somebody that was just like me to stay with me forever and deny themselves the future they wanted, then I would not be aligned with who they were. And that would make me greedy because I'm selling them on the idea of being incongruent with who they are. However, the people I'm bringing in, which is kind of going back to that DISC model I initially talked about, they're aligned. They don't want to be the entrepreneur. They want to create in different ways. Does that make sense? Everybody's a creator. Not everybody creates in the same way. My wife's a creator. You ask her to run a business, she'll tell you to fuck off. But she'll make some of the most beautiful art on the planet. She's a creator. You're a creator. I'm a creator. Everybody's a creator. So you have to align with the right types of interests. Am I greedy? Honestly, I don't give a shit about money. Like, I don't care about it. Take it all away, I'll get it back. It's a resource. Money's an amplifier. So an asshole with no money is an asshole nobody fucking listens to. An asshole with a lot of money, well, guess what?
That's a good one.
He's going to be heard by everyone.
Like Steve Jobs.
Fuck yeah. Or Donald Trump. Love him or hate him. He talked like an asshole.
Yeah.
Like
that's a good one.
And I say that about Donald. I actually voted for Donald because I liked his policy. I just wish he wouldn't have fucking talked. You know what I mean? He was such a fucking dick. But when it comes to an asshole with a lot of money, everybody hears. Right. An asshole with no money, nobody fucking hears him.
Right.
A nice guy with no money? Who the fuck was he? Didn't matter. May have been a great father, may have been a great employee, may have been a great husband. Nobody fucking knew. An asshole with an infinite amount of money, that guy can change the world. A nice person with an infinite amount of money, that guy can change the world. But if we go shame every nice person with a lot of money and tell them they're bad when they're trying to give, when they're trying to serve, when they're trying to change the world, careful because you might make them into assholes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this thing though with people trying to pretend to be nice, where they're displaying their acts of kindness on social media, and I think that's pretty disgusting. Where they go to give something to a homeless guy and they make sure that somebody's there to take a picture of it, and then they put it on their social media. And I find that very disgusting. I think that I've actually gotten into it on LinkedIn with a bunch of people that have done stuff like that, and I tell them there's a difference between a gesture and a move, and what you're doing is not kindness, it's advertising. Look at how awesome I am. I'm buying this guy who who just got a job and can't go to an interview because he doesn't have a proper wardrobe. I'm buying him a suit. Look at how nice I am. One of my employees' cars broke down. I helped them put a down payment on a car, or I bought him a new car. And they're displaying that, and I think it's very disgusting. And I think those people are not nice people. I think they're disgusting.
Let's play with that for a minute if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell you a few stories to back this up, because I used to completely agree with you, and now I don't know that I do.
Okay.
And not that I don't agree with your premise, but I truly do think that people are doing the best with what they've got. And sometimes I think people might be putting those things on social media, not even necessarily for others, but maybe to sell themselves, to get enough recognition to believe it of themselves. I think so many people question themselves nonstop that they don't know any other way to communicate, and social media becomes their only way. So I'll tell you a cool story. I best day of my life, worst day of my life. I'd never lost anybody in my life, and late 2019, I get a phone call from my brother-in-law, good guy, and he calls me and he says, "Preston, you need to come over here. Come to your mom's house." I was like, "What's going on?" Sounds serious. It's like, "Your dad's gone, bro." And it was like the whole world crushing me in a moment. And somehow, through tears and everything, I found a way to drive over to my mom's house, and sure enough, my dad was gone. He was not there. And he went the right way. He went to sleep in his favorite chair, and he went in a way that we would all admire, but he was gone, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And I literally, for the next week and a half of my life, was walking around like a fucking zombie. I was dead inside. Now, I had been, fortunately, in this situation where I'd had to hustle enough that my threshold for pain was pretty high. And so I was like, going to take care of my mom. I was going to take care of my sister. I was going to take care of everybody, but I was fucking dying inside and I was empty inside and it was all work. And as if by divine providence, a week and a half later, I get the opportunity to go to a Tony Robbins Date with Destiny event. And I'm sitting pretty close to the front row. And Tony walks up and he's talking to somebody, 3 or 4 rows in, but he's standing right next to me while he's talking to him. And he looks at this person, and this person tells him how they'd lost somebody recently. And I'm telling you, this moment happened for me. Like, it was for them too, obviously, because he was talking to them, and I'm not the type that's going to raise my hand and share my problems. But it totally happened for me because Tony's looking at them, and he puts his hand on my shoulder while he's talking to them. I look up, he looks down at me for a blink of a second, then he looks back over at them, and he says, "You're not suffering in the fact. You're suffering in the perception of the fact. You're not suffering because they're gone. You're suffering because you expect them to still be here. They're not playing within your rules and your reality and your framework." And what I wrote down on my sheet of paper that was in front of me is, expectations are the mother of all suffering. And it was this freeing moment. And I literally went to war with every expectation I had. I went to war with expectations I'd had on past business partners who I was mad and in judgment of. I went to war with expectations on my own wife. I went to war with expectations on my children. I went to war with expectations on everybody. And I found that, I was already pretty happy at that point. I was doing well. Life was good, but now I was something more. Now I was happy and I was also free. Mm. I was no longer regulated on by a model of the world that forced me into a situation where my emotional state was controlled by something outside of my control within my environment. And I would watch people doing these things, like the things that you just talked about, things that annoy you and things that used to annoy me. And I would say, man, I wonder why they're doing it. And I would look at them instead of from a position of judgment, more from a position of curiosity. More from a standpoint of kind of being loving and like, holy shit, I wonder what's triggering me in this situation. What am I attached to? What am I expecting? And I'm kind of going a little deep here, and I hope I'm not going too deep. And I'm definitely not judging or saying anything, trying to be negative on you for judging, because I've judged that so many fucking times. And trust me, I have a good decade longer than you of judgment, so I have way more practice, and I've judged plenty. But I would question you, brother. What makes you even have an emotion when these people are acting that way?
It could be my religious upbringing. The right hand is not supposed to know what the left hand is doing. I'm not religious anymore, but I was raised that way. But I just think that there's a difference between a gesture and a move. There's a difference when you're doing something because you want to be kind, and when you're doing something because you're expecting something in return, and it's not genuine. That's what bothers me.
Oh, for sure. But does the reason for the good action matter?
I also think about, so now that I think about it, the second part of it is, how's it making that other person feel? The person that's receiving the help. Probably not very good.
Oh, I'm sure they would prefer to receive help in a way that didn't come with the cost of being on camera.
Sure. Yeah, me too.
And anybody would. And
then let those people who you've helped come out and say, you know what? This guy was so awesome. This is what he did for me, and I'm forever grateful. Let them speak for you. Why are you advertising it?
So I don't disagree with you. The only thing I'm throwing out for you is, because I can see, like, dude, you're such a passionate person, and it's really cool, like, watching your face, because it reminds me of the way that I probably reacted to these people years ago. Why would you give any of those folks your energy? At least there's a good deed happening. What if you saw the beauty in it?
That's true.
What if you looked at the other side? What if we went back to the cell phone?
Mm.
I'm not saying the way they're doing the good deed is right. I'm not saying all of their intentions are right. But would you have preferred that the good deed wasn't present at all? I would rather a narcissist perceive their due and do something right than just not do anything.
I see what you're saying. I see. If I had to pick one, I'd go with, I'd choose that they do it and display it than not do it at all, I suppose.
So give them kudos.
Maybe I'll think about it for a little bit longer, but I think so.
How many people just don't do it?
Yeah.
I wish everybody was doing it and displaying it rather than all the people that don't fucking do what they should do.
Right.
How many people aren't doing what they should do? How many of the unseen that we should be judging never step up? I wish we had more people to judge on their good deeds.
Oh, that's good. You make a good point. I'll think about it. If you come back here in the future, maybe we'll continue that particular topic. So I want to talk to you about realtors for a bit, because I recently tweeted that influencer is the new synonym for unemployed. It recently took over entrepreneur and realtor. There's
wait, say it again.
Influencer is the new synonym for unemployed. It recently took over entrepreneur and realtor. So there was a time where everybody who was unemployed was an entrepreneur. Like, I'd meet people, I'd say, "What are you doing?" And they say, "Oh, I have these online businesses." I go, "Oh, really? Well, what do you sell?" "Oh, I haven't sold anything yet." So, "Oh, well, you have a website. You don't have a business." Right. And then I'd meet people who, like, there's all these people that just aren't doing anything, and then they go become a realtor, and they're, "Oh yeah, I'm a realtor," but really they're not. They don't work. They've never sold a house. They've never closed the deal. They've never done anything. And there's a lot of people who have this idea of, I'm going to become a realtor. I can sell a house a week, make a $10,000 commission. That's a shitload of money. That's $480,000 a year, depending on how you calculate it. And that's it. I'm going to sell a house and I'm going to go on vacation. My friend's a realtor. He just sold a house, made $50,000 commission, and now he's in Bora Bora. There's a lot of people that have that idea of that's how a realtor's life is. And I always tell those people, there's no such thing as too good to be true. If it seems that easy, it's not that easy. What do you think about that? What do you tell people who want to be realtors? What are some of the things that they should expect to have to deal with?
So here's what I'll tell you on realtor. My email is, to this day, prestonrealtor@gmail.com. The reason I keep that email rather than updating it is because nobody asks me for money.
That's great.
I every fucking doctor on earth wishes they named their realtor, nurse so-and-so. I mean, holy shit. And look, I mean, realtors are like anything else. And I've got I don't know, 120, 150 realtors. I don't even fucking know.
Damn.
I own a company called Summus Realty. It's a great organization here.
Quick shout out to my friend Griselle, actually, who introduced me to you, and she's one of your realtors now.
Yeah, she just came on a few months ago. Chad's wife.
I'd have to ask her. We don't go that deep at the conversations, but yeah.
Yeah, she's a good lady. She's a good lady, and her husband
he's a realtor.
I think he's.
I know she's told me that.
I think he's a home flipper.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's a really nice guy. Really nice guy. And I actually met him a couple times, and I admired him because he was pushy and cocky and forced his way in to kind of like,
it's just like me,
to my space. And I was like, you know what? I just like you. You remind me of me when I was younger. I admire them. Like, I admire that energy, because like people are going to get what they want in life. So I met her husband, and he was a really cool guy. And then I had lunch with him, and I was like, "So what's your wife do?" And she's like, "She's a realtor." I was like, "Holy shit." And then all of a sudden she joins my company a few weeks later. I hope it had some reason for it, but she's a really nice lady. She just came on to work for our company, and I think she's doing well, actually. I'm pretty sure. But realtors they're like anything else. Okay. There's good, there's bad. 80% suck. Yeah. And I'm just going to put it out there. 80% of them suck. But you know what? That's pretty much just like everybody else. If you go to Dillard's and you're looking for somebody to help you, 80% of them suck.
For sure.
If you go to McDonald's and you want to get your order right, 80% of the time it's not, which means 80% of them suck.
Right.
I mean, like, it's just in life, it's that Gallup poll. 85% of employees are disengaged. It's what's funny about the realtor versus the normal employee is when the realtor's disengaged, he works for himself. So he hates his boss, and his boss is him. It's kind of a unique situation where they're disengaged and they don't even like their own boss, and they're their boss. Right. So is it this lifestyle of dream come true money? I mean, it can be.
It can be
for the 1%.
If you're working your ass off, you're not on the beach you're not in Bora Bora every week.
If you're the top 1% of anything, you're going to do great. Anything. Like I have friends that
Can I zoom in on an example real quick?
sure.
Your guy who you were taking the shots with, who sold 90 houses last year, that your top salesman.
Mm-hmm.
How like that to me, that sounds like a badass realtor.
And he's not a realtor.
90
He's
houses,
a
that's
builder.
lot. Oh, okay. Oh,
And I mean, he made six figures probably several times over. I don't know exactly
sure.
what his income was, but he did very, very, very well. And
he's on the grind, I'm assuming.
well, yeah, he is, but kind of not really. I mean, we're talking about John Entian, and I'll say his name. I'll just throw his name out there because he won't mind. Okay. He's this playful, loving, goofy fucker who is just absolutely heart-centered, and he cares about everybody he meets. I mean, selling for him is the easiest thing on earth. If it's not right for you, he'll just tell you. Hold on. How do I do my John impression?
Well, boss, I don't even know. Like, I don't think it's right for you. Like, honestly, like we probably shouldn't do that.
Like I've heard this shit. I've heard him with clients. John, if you're listening, I love you.
But he's like, yeah, what's up, guys?
He's just this loving motherfucker that like, he just wants to help people. If he is one of the most authentic people I know, and I love him for that. Like I keep him in and around my peer group, like, just because he's authentic. Like, you want to sell anything, be authentic.
Sure.
Like, if you're authentic, I love so many realtors out there. If they would just stop being pretentious and go for authentic, like, meet somebody and bond with them. Tell them a story about like who you are, what inspires you. Share, be genuine. It's not even hard to sell houses. Like, what? You use a key, you open the door, you tell them which one's the bathroom. You can probably measure that by which one has a fucking toilet in it, right?
Yeah.
You tell them which one the kitchen is. If there's a fridge there, it's a clue. Okay. The other ones are bedrooms or a living room. Like, kind of, I mean,
you're too logical.
What do you fucking do? Like, what do? You open a fucking door. You fill out a fill in the blank contract. What's your real job? Your real job is not to open the door, not to this is the bathroom. You know how many people I've literally walked into new homes so many times and this is the bathroom. I was like,
they're reading off a brochure.
Right. And they suck at their job.
Yep.
Help the person get what they want. What do they want? They want to negotiate the best possible deal. Well, the best possible deal a year and a half ago is very different than the best possible deal today. Your job is to know the market, know what's possible, and help them get that.
Mm-hmm.
If you do those three things well as a realtor, you know what you are? Top 1%. 98% of them want to tell you which one's a fucking bathroom. Have you taken a shit before?
Once or twice.
Holy shit. Like, next time I have somebody tell me this is the bathroom, I'm going to be like, thanks. I was confused. I was about to go take a shit in the kitchen.
That's so true. I've seen that when I was house shopping, and I've seen it. I see it all the time. Not so much anymore because of the pandemic. I used to see it all the time in clinics when there used to be multiple reps in a clinic at once. And I'd see the rep holding a brochure and, oh, this is the new migraine medication. And the study showed 60% reduction in whatever. And 80% this and 90% that. I'm like, dude, you're missing the point. You're not even looking at the doctor in the eye when you're talking to him. You haven't even asked him if his patients suffer from migraines. Like, what are you reading off the brochure for? Put that away and have a conversation with this guy first.
So let's recycle back for a minute, because I'm sure there's probably some realtors that watch your podcast. How do you get any customer? Find out what they want. What does your customer want? The same shit you want. The same shit your broker wants. The same shit the lender wants. The same shit that everyone else on earth wants. A certainty of success. I want to know if I hire you as my realtor, I'm going to get to move into the house I choose. That's what I want. That's what I fucking want.
Right. That's so true.
Why can't you just go find out what I want, go get it, and give it to me?
Mm-hmm.
If you did that, you could literally marry anyone you wanted. If you did that, you could have any customer or any number of customers that you wanted.
Right.
Find out what they want, go get it, give it to them. Most people spend so much time, I will give you probably the single greatest piece of relationship advice.
I felt like it was going to be a good one the way you paused.
It hit me because I'm sitting here thinking back to Costa Rica where we had Allison Armstrong. And I'm going to play this with you because you're doing podcasts all the time. So you probably know this better than everyone. Most people never listen to anyone but themselves. Why? Because they have a preconception that's interrupting the conversation. Think about this. There's a question in the back of your head whenever anyone's talking to you. Correct me if I'm wrong. It could be several different things. It could be, how can I help? It could be, what do you want from me? It could be, how do I get out of this quicker? I mean, are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yep.
You've probably had some questions in the back of your head a time or two, right?
Sure.
We all do. What if the realtor would stop listening to themselves? By the way, this is not just for realtors. This is for everyone that has ever sold anything ever.
Yes.
If instead of having a preset question of, what do you want from me? God, why am I here? God, how long is this going to take? God, you're not listening to them. You're listening to your fucking self. You're listening to your own question set in the back of your head. What if you stopped and got curious about who this person was? About what they were about what their story was, about how you could help them? What if you took a moment and just got curious? Research the history of the word curiosity. I'll give you a clue. It comes from Greece. Okay. What if you got curious about that person? What if you found the similarities between that person and the last person you sold a house to, or sold pharmaceuticals to, or sold anything else to? You might find some trends. Once you find those trends, you know what you now know? You know your customer profile. Once you know your customer profile, you know exactly what you need to do to market exactly to that person because you have the solutions to their problems. You can answer their pain questions before they even ask, and they'll come running to you. Once you do that, there's no amount of limits outside of your capacity to serve. Then you go build a team and you have more people with the same script, same pitch, same everything else. That's called scaling a business. You don't have to scale a business. You have to get out of your own fucking way. If you got your own fucking preconceived questions out of your way, how much more can you do? How much more could you give? How much more could you serve somebody at the level that they wanted it?
Everything you just mentioned is exactly why I start every cold call with, I'm not sure if my service is right for you, but I'd like to talk to you for a little bit to find out if it is. And they're all ears at that point. At which point I've got to make me all ears because now I got to ask them questions to find out if indeed it's a good fit.
You just shocked them. You literally shocked them. You gave them a gift of giving a shit about whether you were there to benefit them or not. And immediately they started paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you gave them that gift, say, look, I'm not sure, but if it's not, I won't waste your time. That was the implication.
Right.
You gave them a gift. How many other people came out and read a fucking script?
Everybody. 98%, 99%.
And the script was 99% of the time written by somebody that didn't know how to write a fucking script.
Right.
And when they saw a little bit of authenticity, by the way, I'm just curious, morbid curiosity for nothing else, I would guess and hallucinate that your sales are massively better than that of your competitors in the same field, because if for nothing else, you're doing that.
I've done very well in this industry in the time that I've been in it, minus last year, but last year's hard to measure. But yeah, I've done very well. I at least get what I want out of each interaction, which is information. I find out if, yes, there's a reason to continue calling on this account or if I need to move on to something else, which saves me a lot of time and a lot of frustration. Because if you're talking to people who don't want to talk to you, it's frustrating. And so I like to uncover the potential as quickly as possible and then figure out my next steps from there. So scaling a business, you talk about this a lot. You just mentioned it right now. Let's say I came to you and I said, Preston, I want to scale this podcast. I'm getting thousands of views. I want to get millions of views. Or I have 10 apartments. I want to have 1,000 apartments. Talk to me about scaling.
So part
I'm
of the
not,
reason,
I know I'm very vague, is because I'm not even sure where to start.
no, and I'll give you where to start.
Okay.
So part of where everybody fails in scaling is they're focused on scaling. When you're focused on growing anything, you're focused on growing yourself. When I launched my TikTok, it was not about me. I had wanted to launch a social media platform for a long time. In fact, I wrote down goals. I wrote down goals at that same date with Destiny I told you about in 2019. I wrote down I want to have $5 million in the bank account. At that point, I didn't. I had 7 figures, but I didn't have 5 million. I wrote down that I wanted to become a social media influencer. I wrote down that I wanted to have a jet, and I wrote down something else. I don't even remember what it was, but I accomplished everything within 12 months except social media influencer. 2 months ago, and I still hadn't hit the social media thing. I was with a buddy of mine named Quentin Flores, and we went on this thing called Clubhouse. And he's a social media influencer. He's got, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of followers. Like I think over 100 on TikTok. He's got 70,000 or something on Instagram. All this, right? I coached him in business, and I basically helped him save his business. Like they had a great company, idea-wise, but not in practice, and they were struggling. They were probably cruising for a crash or a closure and a partnership that was going to end. They came to me within 3 months. I had these guys there in their 20s and 30s, and I had them making 30, 40 grand a month just by optimizing the machine they had. We built a friendship out of it. He was a social media influencer. I expressed interest, and one day he invites me on Clubhouse. No bullshit. We rescued 3 companies. Like 3 companies. One lady in New York that had an events business in New York during COVID, and we gave her shit to rescue her. And, it was beautiful. Hold on. I'm going to pause this. Hey, Daniel, you should pour us more drinks since you're there.
Please go for it.
But
dude, do your thing, man. Whatever you need. There's ice here. I don't know if I didn't hear what he said. Oh yeah, do your thing.
So
here, I got you. Pass me a glass. Oh, I got you. I got it.
Oh, there we are.
Go ahead.
Cool. There we go. So we rescued like 3 companies on this call. It was like a 2-hour call, and we had a great time. So I called him afterwards because I was all excited about it. I'd opened a TikTok, and I'd gotten a few followers. I think it got me 100 or 200 followers, which I thought was really cool at that point in time. And I call him, and I'm all excited because of what we've done. And I was like, dude, this is so fucking great. This was so cool. What did you think? How did we do? Let's debrief the call, right? And he's like, you're a fucking hypocrite, which was not the answer I was expecting from him. It wasn't the response I was expecting from him. I thought we'd had a beautiful experience. I thought we'd had, thank you,
You're
beautiful
welcome.
call. I thought we'd done a good thing. And I wasn't really expecting to be called a hypocrite. And so I was like, what do you mean? What's going on? He was like, you're the guy that teaches everybody how to automate things and how to scale things. I just watched you save 3 people's livelihoods. Maybe save their lives. I mean, you don't know what these people are going through, and you just fucking saved their livelihoods. You might have made it possible for their kids to go to college. You might have done this, and you just fucking saved them. And you're so fucking selfish that you won't even get on social media. And it was literally a punch in the nuts, but it was a good punch in the nuts. And I didn't react immediately. I said, bro, I love you. I'm going to take what you said. I'm going to think about it. At this point, I had deleted Facebook from my phone. I'd gotten off of like pretty much every social media, and I was just off of everything. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that, what if I am being selfish? And I said, I just don't want to hold a phone up and talk into a phone and take a picture of my food and do all this shit that we talk about influencers doing these days. Ooh, look what I ate. Ooh, this, oh, that. Like that just seems stupid, right? And even the way you talked about them, influencer has replaced like entrepreneur, has replaced unemployed, has replaced, now realtor. I didn't want to be like these people that were just all significance driven and nasty. But it hit me, and I was like, you know what? I would do this. And I started writing down if it would help. And I came at it from that position of energy. If I can give a financial education to people, if I can honor people, if I cannot do this for me, like, will it be for me too? That's fine, but that can't be the main reason. Anytime you're doing something just for yourself, people can feel that.
Definitely.
When you're doing something, even getting criticism for doing something, yet you're doing it for a greater good. Money's mentioned more times in the Bible than Jesus was.
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me.
40,000 years of transactional history between humans, and we haven't gotten money right.
Yeah.
We all thought we had a race problem in our country last year. We didn't have a race problem. We had a finance problem. We had an education problem. We had an understanding problem. Why the fuck are we in the greatest country in the world, in the single greatest economic situation on this planet, still in a situation where we have people economically struggling? How is that a problem? If everybody was the same level of abundance or doing just as well, we wouldn't have people talking about the color of skin. We wouldn't have people talking about all the stupid shit they fucking talk about.
Right.
Not that I'm saying there's no problems in those areas. There are definitely problems in those areas. But as long as children in this world as long as there's areas without running water, if we think we have issues in this country, we have no fucking clue what's real.
Sure.
And so that hit me, and I was like, I don't care about necessarily solving all the world's problems, but if I can give some financial information and education to people, and more importantly, if I can do it for free, fucking A.
That's awesome.
I'm going to do that. And so your question is, how do I build a brand? How do I scale it? You got to get out of your own way. You can't do it for you. You have to do it authentically to love other people. And so far what I've seen, you do that. So that's great. But then you also have to have something compelling enough where they're already in enough pain, which from a money standpoint, they're in a lot of pain.
Most people
Everybody's in a lot of financial pain. And so here I come out and I say, money's easy. Us men, oftentimes we think money should be complex. Why do we think money should be complex? Well, frankly, because the most important thing in the world to us are women is complex. Women are complex as shit. Therefore, everything good in this world must also be complex, right? Let me tell you something. Complexity is seductive, not productive. Productivity gets you paid. Seductivity gets you fucked. Ooh. I would like some seductivity in my relationship. I don't need it in my business. I will reserve getting fucked just for my marriage. Thank you. So when you look at that stuff and you start saying, okay, well, what can I give? How can I serve? What are my gifts? And then you get out of your own way. I had to get out of my way. I think had I started a social media brand before that time, it wouldn't have worked. Nobody would have listened. Nobody would have paid attention because I would have been doing it for me. And do I get benefits out of it? Yeah, you know what? I'm getting a lot of benefits out of it. Not monetary benefits, because I just don't want those and I don't care about those. But it feels good. Like when I'm helping somebody like out of a mindset issue or out of a poverty mindset or giving them like a marketing and education scale that's going to help them overcome whatever issues they're having in business to increase lead flow. Like you think about the 4 flows in a business. You got lead flow. Once you have a lead, you can have a heart-to-heart conversation like you with the doctors you talk to. Once you know how to get a hold of them, if you can get in front of them, you can heart-to-heart with them. What do they normally give you? A problem. If you can solve their problem, you've made a deal.
Yep.
If you've made a deal, there's money. Lead flow, problem flow, deal flow, cash flow. These are the only 4 flows in business. If you have capacity of 20 leads a month and you can identify 15 problems a month, and those 15 problems a month, you can make a deal to solve 10 of them, and you have the capacity to solve 10 of them and deliver on all 10, and each one paid you $1,000, you made $10,000 a month.
Yep.
You can literally measure it down like a science. It's so fucking simple. Well, at that point, I would be like, well, that's great. If you can do 20, can we do 40? Oh, okay. Now we've got 40. Can we do 60? Okay. Well, now that we got 60, can we do 80? Can we do 100? Can we do 500? And the answer is always yes. Because then you just have to figure out, how do I inject the capacity to solve all these problems? And if you can get the leads, automate the sales team to deal with the leads, automate the production team to actually solve the problem, and then automate the billing team to collect, isn't that all that a business is?
Pretty much. When you were talking about productivity and selectivity, you reminded me of the saying that I've told myself since I was probably 10 years old. Ever since I got interested in women, because I've always been interested in money, but ever since I got interested in women, you will always lose money chasing women, but you will never lose women chasing money. That's it. That's right.
I love that saying.
Tell me about your financial education. I commented on one of your TikTok videos. You were talking about, and I want to get into this as well. You said, why are there clocks in offices? Why do people measure time? They should be measuring results. And I 100% agree with that. But I commented on that video. I said, you must have not gone to business school because you're way too logical. And you responded, you're right, I dropped out of business school.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about, how did you get your financial education? And why did you drop out of business school?
So I dropped out of college in general because I realized they were training me to be an employee. And I realized that slavery had nothing to do with the color of people's skin. It had to do with their economics. And I realized that in a capitalist system, slavery is a tiered approach. You can have slaves at $7 an hour and you could have slaves at 100 grand a year. I have a very good friend and he runs the finance department of a large car dealership here. I mean, the man's on salary. He makes 100 grand a year. A lot of people would kill to make 100 grand a year. But he also works, 80, 90 hours a week.
He's trading his life for money.
And I know his family and I consider them all dear friends and loved ones. And I look at what he does and how much he gives. And for the money, it'll never be worth it. It'll never be worth it. He could make more money selling cars as a commission salesman. But because of position, he's been tricked into being a slave. Mm-hmm. And I realized that slavery was now an economic proposition. You go to a capitalist model in an economy. It even says in the good book, you will always have the poor. Another way of saying that is you will always have slaves. You just have a different way of measuring them. And so once I realized that everybody was trying to turn me into an employee and that the entire education system was designed around creating employees, and I realized I could build my own dreams or I could build somebody else's, but the scariest shit out there was you could fail at building somebody else's just like you could fail at building yours. It was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Like, if you could fail at building somebody else's dream, why not at least fail at building your own? Like, why would you even take the risk of building somebody else's? Now, look, I give money to charities that I don't own and run. I volunteer with different operations that I don't own. I go and I help people build their dreams, even though I have zero interest in their companies because they're friends or loved ones that I care about, right? But I have the ability to choose it. If I can choose it, then I'm not a slave. Choice removes the threat of slavery. I never want to be a slave. And if we have an economic system built around that, an education system built around that, and we literally train people to be sheeple, not people. You want to know one of the keys to success? Probably one of the single greatest keys to success. Have a contrarian idea and be right. It's that simple. If all of the sheep are going in one direction and you go the opposite way, but you're right and they're wrong, you will be successful.
But did you not think that you needed that education in order to be a successful entrepreneur, business owner? Or were you like, I'm not going to waste more years in this institution. I'm going to figure it out on my own?
Everybody's worried about the amount of years in their life. I was worried about the amount of life in my years.
Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah. And I was already very educated because I read books. I read a book a week for damn near 10 years straight. I now read less, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. I think I've read, 1,200, 1,500 books total.
That's so much.
And at a certain point, you want to like bend your ear down and you hope you hear a flushing sound, because sometimes you just know that you're regurgitating somebody else's information, which, who gives a shit? There's no such thing as original content anymore anyway.
It's true.
But
Everybody says the same stuff, basically.
you don't, and there's a clue there. If all the people whose life you want to live are saying the same shit, listen. For fuck's sake, stop arguing. Stop running in a different direction. Because you know what? They're the ones with the contrarian idea. The sheep are dragging you in the wrong fucking direction.
Right.
Elon
Musk recently said that he thinks there are too many MBAs running companies. What do you think about that?
I can tell you the girl that was brought on to run my home building company, the one that'll probably make $4 million this year, does not have a college education.
Good for her. I love people like that. I love hearing stories like that. Nor does the
person running my real estate company, nor does the person running my property management company, nor does the person running my hard money lending company, nor does the person running my title company.
Love it.
In fact, I don't know if the girl running my travel company has an education, but I'll ask now.
You didn't look at her resume?
No.
You just talked to her?
She ran another large travel organization, and I thought she was amazing. We built a friendship over several years, so I just called her and said, "Do you want to be a part of it?" And she did, so we brought her on.
That's awesome. I do have a bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and it was one of those things that like I just felt that it's a good idea to have, because I didn't know what the future was going to hold. And of course, there was a lot of pressure from my parents. Like my oldest sister is a doctor. My second oldest sister has a master's degree, and I'm the idiot with the bachelor's, right? And then I have a brother in college now, so we'll see what he ends up doing. But I always knew that whatever it was, this degree was going to be nothing more than a piece of paper. Actually, at the time, I was training to be a UFC fighter, and that was going to be that's what I wanted to do. I was absolutely obsessed with it, thought about it every minute of every day. And then I changed my mind because I learned about brain trauma and all that. And at that point, I had no clue what I was going to do with my life. But you talk about the tunnel and people always needing to see the light at the end of the tunnel. To this day, I have no clue what I'm going to be doing with the rest of my life. I don't know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I might quit my job, go try something else. Just a couple of days ago, I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, I think I'm going to become a realtor. See where that takes me. That's me. Like, I can't be in a fixed path. That's why I didn't like school, because they want to squeeze you into this limited lane where this is all that you can do.
Let me show you something. Maybe this will resonate. What do you see here?
A box or a square, depending on
let's
how
stick with the
a box.
first
A box
answer.
is 3D. So
First answer.
Okay.
Let's go with a box.
Okay.
And smart people think
outside the box,
and dumb people think
inside the box, if they think at all.
What does an entrepreneur do?
Tears the box up.
Nope. He builds boxes for other people.
Be
a box builder.
Be a box builder. Yeah. That's a good one.
That actually is original content, by the way. That's me.
But that on TikTok.
Here.
Daniel.
So what you just said was something that I felt for many years. I didn't necessarily find the right direction until I got into real estate. The reason I got into real estate was not so much that I had a compulsion towards real estate. I knew from a very young age that I had a compulsion for business. I saw Pretty Woman with Richard Gere. And even though I still want to marry Julia Roberts, sorry, I saw what Richard Gere was doing, cutting up companies, buying and selling and all this. And I was like, that's the coolest job ever. And to me, like his job in that business was such a calling to me. And I was a little kid. I couldn't have been 10 years old. I was like, holy fuck, it's what I'm going to do. Then I got into a real estate game where I was able to sell, and I realized I'm literally selling the highest priced products that there are. And I can make great commissions selling these super high priced products. And the three traditional paths to wealth in this country have been medicine, banking, and sales. I'm at the top. And I remembered that that movie, Pretty Woman, and I was like, how do I make a business of this? How do I buy and sell companies that do this? Who's doing this at the highest level? The man with the right answer is often relatively intelligent. The man with the right question is a fucking genius. And when you start asking those questions, you start answering those questions naturally. The questions you pose to your brain becomes the answers that you receive. And the answers you receive become the steps on the staircase, and the steps on the staircase become the path to the journey. And I am fucking nowhere near done, but I think for 38, at under 40 years old, I think I'm outpacing, I'd say 99.9% of my peers. They did my net worth recently, and it was, big. And I could literally sell some companies on an ESOP right now and be worth well over $100 million, somewhere between 100 and 200. And I looked at that, and I have nowhere near that amount of money right now. I mean, cash in the bank, I think we were at 8 the other day, which is good. That's fucking great for my age. But when I realized that an asset valued on cash flow, like a business, is one of the single greatest assets on the planet, and I was like, holy fuck, I'm 38. I'm so fucking young. I could do anything I want to do. I could be a billionaire before I die. We live once. Don't worry about the years of your life. Worry about the life in your years. Build boxes. Answer that question in a different way. If you want to do multiple things, go out and sample them, but take advantage of that formula. I gave you the formula. I gave it to everyone. Everyone on earth got the same formula on that fucking TikTok, and they can all go research it. 3 goals: alignment, simplicity, and foresight. They're the only 3 goals to any business. 4 tools you measure, like 4 legs on a table. If you don't have 4 legs of equal length and equal strength, what can rest on it?
Not much.
This would slide the fuck off, and I wouldn't have a drink anymore. Culture, clarity, capacity, cash. Here's the trick. Culture and cash are effect. Clarity and capacity are cause. If you master cause, do you also master effect? Yep. The seeds you sow are the crops that you yield. If you master cause, you will then also master effect. If you care about people, culture comes from in here. Culture comes from being a good person. Cash comes from delivering massive value and having a team behind you. So it all starts with caring, starts with culture. But to get all the way to cash, you better give massive clarity and have the capacity. You can find every single problem within any business by analyzing the capacity. If I have a home building company selling 20 homes a month, but I can only build 10, do I have a capacity issue? 5 or 6 months, I'm going to have 10 pissed off people every fucking month, right? By the way, I had to learn that the hard way.
That's the best way to learn.
Right? And so
probably, maybe.
What if you're doing the opposite? What if you're selling 5 homes a month, but you're building 25 homes a month? In 5 or 6 months, if you don't figure out how to up sales, you're going to have a whole new problem. A lot of inventory that you can't afford to keep, right? So if you could sell 20 and build 20, sell 20 and build 20, sell 20 and build 20, then you have that pulse.
That's a good match.
Holy shit. So capacity is where you find all your problems. Clarity, or lack thereof, is where you cause all of your problems. So here's the idea that it's one of my favorite analogies, and I apologize for the vulgarity in advance.
It's all good. It's just us here.
Yeah, and YouTube and everybody else that you're going to share this with.
Oh, we're live. There's people watching.
Oh, perfect. Hey, guys.
Somebody commented they want you to hire them, by the way.
Cool. Present your value proposition, because people do the exact same thing businesses do. We sell something. Businesses sell something. What do people do? They sell something. You're selling your time to a business. If I hire you, what are you going to give me in exchange for the money I'm going to give you? That's right. If I go to Walmart and give them, say I want to buy a TV, and I get home and the TV doesn't work, can I return that motherfucker? Why? I can. Why? Because I was the customer, right? Well, what if I hire an employee and he doesn't do the work.
You
Can I
can't-
return him? I gave him money. It's the same fucking relationship. So when we're going to clarity and capacity, here's the vulgar analogy I promised you.
Okay.
Because anytime you're in business, you're producing a product, you're producing a service, you're giving somebody something, right? You're creating something that's of value to somebody. Well, why is that different than cooking? If you were cooking something because you wanted to feed your family, and you love your family, you want to feed your family, you love your family, you're Lebanese. There's a lot of food culture in Lebanon, right? So, you know, some of that, I don't even remember what it is.
We gotta
I
have
think
you
it's
over
like, I think it's
sometime.
like kibbe, or what is the
Yeah,
beef
yeah.
called?
We're
That's
gonna
so
make some
fucking
kibbe.
good.
I'm gonna invite you over.
Dude, that shit is amazing.
All
By the way.
right.
But say you're making some kibbe, you're inviting me over. We're gonna have a group get together. It's gonna be fucking awesome. And some asshole walks through while you're in the kitchen cooking. You've got all these people. It's amazing. And somebody takes a big shit in the middle of the kitchen. Would you keep cooking?
No, probably not.
You would stop fucking immediately. How come in business, when somebody fucks up epically, we all just keep working?
It's a good question.
Why is it any different? If somebody takes a shit in the kitchen, you have two problems. You have the problem that is the giant pile of shit in the kitchen, and you have the problem that is the piece of shit that caused the pile of shit in the kitchen. You need to teach this dumb motherfucker how to use the bathroom. If you don't teach him how to use the bathroom, he's going to do the same shit tomorrow. So any time that you identify a problem in capacity, you don't have the problem that is, you have the problem that is and the problem that caused it. There's always two problems. We only look at one.
That's right.
So if you solve the problem that is and you solve the problem that caused it, you now have a new level of cash and culture because you've increased certainty of success, which is all the customer wants, all the employee wants, all the owner wants, all that anybody wants. Certainty of success.
Right.
And then in business, we all get fucked up. We think that there's a million things we can change. There's not. There's 6. My wife's makeup drawer has 150 fucking things she could change. I used to say 50.
The 6 P's?
The 6 P's.
Somebody commented that. Garrett Sanchez.
Oh, what's up, Garrett? So the 6 P's. My wife has 150 things. I used to say 50, and then I actually counted them. There was like 147, so I round up. And I was like, holy shit. My wife can be a different woman on Friday night than she is on Sunday morning. And no offense, babe, I love you, but the Friday night woman is so much more fun. And there's a little seductivity there. But in business, I don't have to worry about 150 things. I can only worry about 6. And you can change one or more than one. Price, product, people, place, promotion, process. Price, product, people, place, promotion, process. That's all there fucking is. And by the way, when you do this formula, 3 goals: alignment, simplicity, foresight. 4 things you measure: culture, clarity, capacity, cash. And 6 things you can change: price, product, people, place, promotion, process. Underline, highlight, circle, fucking, italicize, whatever the fuck you need to do, process. Why? Because you want to automate getting business, doing business, getting paid. If you use that formula, that is the same formula I used for my social media brand. That is the same formula I've used for every company I built. I built a real estate brokerage in 2008. We're one of the dominant real estate brokerages in El Paso today.
It's
in
awesome.
2008. We just launched a travel company in December of 2020. We officiated it in January of 2021. That's when we took our first customer on. It's now it was an $8 million company. Now it's probably close to a $13 million company.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's 90 days old.
That's
How would you like to have a
incredible.
90-day-old worth fucking $13 million? Would you be okay with that?
I might have a kid if that were the case.
Look, it doesn't work that way with children. Okay, I have 2. Those are money expenses. I love them. That's an income on the heart side, not the money side. Okay, that's family and faith, not finance. Okay, and not fitness either, because you'll lose a fuck ton of sleep.
Yeah. People ask me when I'm going to have kids. I say when I have a shitload of money. I don't have to worry about raising them. That's the thing. I never want to go back to that place where I'm worried about how to provide for myself or my family. And one of the things that allow me to take risks right now is that I'm good. I've got myself to where I have a pretty stable financial foundation, and I can take risks. And I'm 28 years old. I don't have kids, and I'm like, I can take risks. And so, I love that. But yeah, if I could have a kid, and in 3 months, they'd pay me $13 million, I'd go for it.
And then you wouldn't sell it.
I would sell. I'd keep the
Because
kid.
if the kid was worth $13 million, you know what he's worth on a cash flow standpoint? Oh my God. And when you factor inflation, what's he worth 20 years from now?
A lot.
Amazing. So why would you ever sell an asset? Because that's the conversation we left off on.
I'll tell you why. If you get to a point in life where you're like, all right, I'm over this. I don't want to be working 60 or 70 hours a week anymore. I've got more money than I'm ever going to spend. I barely see my kids. I heard Kevin Hart say in an interview one time, he realized, this is maybe like a year ago, he said, I realized that I was married to my work and dating my family. And he had to do something about that.
We learned this last week, just to corroborate that point, most marriages, most husband and wife couples are not even friends. They would not even hang out with their spouse.
That's probably why there's a lot of divorce.
Holy shit. And you want to know what was really interesting is Allison was showing us divorce statistics compared to business statistics. Did you know the failure rates?
Ooh.
I wonder if the single greatest cause is communication.
Probably.
In both. Wow.
Probably. People talk. They don't communicate.
Yeah.
Probably.
And they talk at you. They don't talk with you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't share and wait for you to share back. They just like tell you. Or they shame you. So here's another thing, guys, if you're listening on shaming, okay? If there's a problem, say someone came and took a shit in the kitchen, all right? You should definitely stop cooking. You should identify the problem. That's not even in question. We're not there. We've moved on. But should we also find blame and shame and punish the fuck out of the person beyond reason? No. Start with education. Start with communication. Start with the part that maybe you failed with. Because normally when somebody's fucking up, if they wanted a certainty of success and you wanted a certainty of success and you're the leader, guess who they were following? You. So should you go blame them? No. Go blame yourself. Why? Because let me tell you what blame is. Blame is when you're taking a pile of shit in the kitchen and now you're sprinkling somebody's blood on it. It's only twice as gross now. What the fuck did that do for anyone? Don't blame, identify it. Meet them where they're at and be like, hey, look, this happened. You know, you shit in the kitchen. I don't know where you learned that. I don't know what's going on, but we should probably talk about it. We have a bathroom. The house we bought came with two.
The realtor showed us where it is.
The realtor showed us where it is. He said, this is the toilet. This is the bathroom. We know it's there now. Thank God for him.
I have an uncle who works for an international company. This was the first time I ever thought about measuring results and not time. And he manages, I think it's, I don't know, over 1,000 people, something crazy like that, and in over a number of countries. And he had a guy come to him one time complaining. It was like, I don't know, December 5th. And he's like, how come that other guy is already on vacation? How come you let that guy take vacation? It's only December 5th. What the hell? We're all still here working. And my uncle goes, he hit his quota 2 weeks ago. Why don't you go hit your quota and then go home? Results.
Your uncle was a smart man.
He never went to school. I think he dropped out of high school. There was a war in Lebanon, I think.
Yeah.
I think he like 9th grade, I think is what he got to.
Why are we worried about how long somebody's ass is creating an ass groove in their chair?
Right.
Why don't we worry about what they have accomplished for the company?
Because business school gives you these strict measurement techniques of what's supposed to be accomplished. And if you're not adhering to what's laid out, all these metrics that are, most of them are arbitrary, then the company is not functioning in a healthy way, Preston. That's what's going on.
All right. So let's follow that logic for a second.
Oh, it's not logic.
I know it's not logic, and I know you don't agree with it, but let's follow that logic for everybody who's listening, because all the people that watch your show need to hear this. Business school. If you are massively successful in business, why the fuck would you cut your pay and go get a professor's salary?
Oh my God. I've been saying that forever.
So now you're going to go learn from somebody who couldn't cut it as a real entrepreneur. And you're going to let this dipshit sell you and tell you theory and content on why you should do what didn't fucking work for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, they better have businesses to back it up and be teaching out of passion.
There's exceptions to the rule. I mean, I have friends who I know have gone into teaching after very successful business careers, but they're not the majority. Like, I don't think there's any massively successful business professors, here in El Paso, like that I've met anyway. And if there are, I would love to meet them and I'd love to talk to them. I'd love to hear their thoughts, but I haven't met any yet. In fact, I had one professor when I was in school and he wanted me to go moonlight at a business he was starting so that I could get a passing grade because I had a fucking business on the side that was profitable. Fucker. Why would we listen to the third string that never fucking made it? Why are we going to school and paying somebody who doesn't know anyway? Look, you want to go to medical school and be a doctor? Go to medical school and be a doctor. Like there's reasons for college. Like I'm not against college. Like my wife wanted to be a graphics designer. She was going to learn art from different artists who'd actually done a great job. Like we have a very good engineering school here at UTEP. Like it's amazing and a mass respect to them. Okay. We have a great graphics design college. We have beautiful people that know all sorts of information on how to create beauty and design and color palettes that are appeasing to the eye, which is great for marketing and value and all this. We don't really have a business school of note. What the fuck are you going to learn from these people? And I don't mean to be antagonistic. I know that's somebody's career, but maybe they need a new one. Like, because probably they suck at it. Because if we look at society just as a whole and we see all the failure rates in business and then we learn what these idiots are fucking teaching. Look, go flip burgers. The guy at McDonald's needs a fucking pay raise. He can manage you because you've certainly fucked up this country in the way that we do business.
This is a topic that you're passionate about.
You know what?
Like everything that you've talked about, you're passionate. But
do you know?
I think we have a very similar background with that. With like, yeah, why am I like? When I was a kid, everybody would tell me the same damn thing: go to school, get a job, save some money, retire. Go to school, get a job, save some money, retire. And it just bugged the fuck out of me. Like,
how's it working for people?
As a kid, I didn't know how to express it, but I would just want to yell at these adults, like, stop telling me what you've done and what you think I should do, because I knew that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to trade my life for a paycheck. There's a difference between observing life and participating in it. And I want to be a participant. I don't want to just make a check and save some money and then, oh, okay, yeah, I can retire now. And now I can maybe go on that trip that I've wanted to take since I was 25 years old. And now I'm 68. I didn't want that.
So here's some stuff for all those people out there with opinions. There's two ways to fail. You can do it through ignorance and you can do it through stupidity. Ignorance, unfortunately, is a choice, and most people take that choice. It's not knowing everything about a situation and making a decision anyway. Stupidity is also a choice. It's a very different choice than ignorance. At least ignorance can have some respect because sometimes when those people get in pain, they learn. The people that are stupid, they don't. And they're not stupid for lack of brain cells. They're stupid for lack of use of the brain cells. They also make a choice, but they have all the information and they still do dumb shit. It's like, I know this is going to hurt. I'm going to do it anyway because I have a principle, or I'm going to do it anyway because the Republican Party or the Democratic Party told me to, or I have to be in this line with all these other fucking sheep. Guys, if you're listening, grow the fuck up. Have a brain. The biggest fear of everybody out there that you're going to replace them comes from your ability to think freely. Please do that.
I totally agree with you. And we're almost 3 hours into this thing. So I want to ask you this question. I've waited like 2.5 hours to ask you. You said at the beginning of the podcast, what's the deal with suits? Why don't you want to wear a suit?
I'll answer it this way. When I got into business, I was selling houses. I would wear cargo shorts, a Hawaiian shirt, and I would wear flip-flops. And I saw a friend of mine that's still in the carpet business that wore that type of outfit. And I admired him. He was a very successful guy. And I thought, well, the success means Hawaiian shirts, flip-flops, cargo shorts. And my grandfather had always told me, if you ever want to be successful, you have to wear a suit. My grandfather, beautiful man, but he was never truly successful the way I imagined success.
Financial
Right.
success.
I mean, they did well. They didn't do bad. He was successful. He was a successful man. He took care of his wife. He raised his children. He did a good job. But my measure of success was different. I always looked at a suit as something that you had to put on to impress your boss.
Ooh.
And I always looked at flip-flops as something that Jesus would wear. And I figured if I was going to choose between the two, I would go with what would Jesus do?
No comment. Fair enough. Preston Brown, thank you for coming in. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Anytime you want to come back here, door's open. I'd love to talk to you. I'm sure we could talk for hours more.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm going to take you up on the kibby.
Yeah, for sure. We're doing that. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I'll see y'all later.